Thank you for attending the regular council meeting of Monday, May 6th of 2024, in person and online. There are approximately a dozen people in the room and about 10 online. I'd like to thank Darren Legault, Councillor of District 6, for chairing the last council meeting and standing in for me while I took some time away to be with my daughter, as we welcomed, so Bob and I, our first grandchild into this world. I wish to offer also our deepest condolences to the Aird family for the loss of Betsy, daughter of Barbara, sister to Susie, and wife of Peter Lang, to the Clayton daughters, family and friends for the loss of Margaret Clayton, and to the friends and family of Leah Schwartz. I will miss her driven, positive energy and her little dogs too. April certainly opened with many surprises. We had a flash snowstorm and a power failure, and also a memorable eclipse. And also the fire at St. James Church represents a tremendous loss for the entire community. I am grateful again for Darren for having stood in for me during the interviews, as I had just arrived from visiting my daughter the night before, and I found myself shaken more deeply by the event than I had prepared for. Thank you as well to Reed for being there by our sides on that very sad afternoon. So the town has extended our offer to support the Churches Corporation to recuperate and restore as much of the original architectural decorative elements and heritage, and also to get the large hall at the back up and running as soon as possible, as many groups are looking to relocate their activities, their meetings, and more during this period of recovery and renovation. With regards to the closure of Sandy Beach, a public communiqué was issued on Friday in preparation of the May long weekend. You will find this evening that there will be two notice of motions and draft bylaws that will be adopted this evening, and to bring them into full effect, we will be calling a special meeting next week, so next Monday on May 13th, to formalize and adopt the final version of these bylaws. Our key message with regards to Sandy Beach remains that the closure is necessary to address the sensitive environmental issues on the town land, where a trail will be built to connect the town-owned land to the servitude of Sandy Beach. I remind you that Sandy Beach is located on private property. It is a servitude of use that the town has since 2007, and it is our duty to maintain good order and safety on this area. We will obviously promote alternate destinations and activities so that people who may not have seen the communiqué may arrive in town and also look to enjoy other areas that we have to offer. Our commitment continues to be to reopen the beach in the future, and to work alongside with the private owners to make this happen as soon as possible. So I won't read through the communiqué. I believe you can find this on the town's website, and most of you have looked at it. It contains a lot of details with regards to the process that we are following and how we have already engaged the services of a biologist. This is SAGI Inc., to help us in preparing the request to the Ministry of Environment for the installation of this new pathway. On a different note, I wish to spotlight the positive energy and great constructive mobilization of a super duo and beautiful town pluggers. Rob Delorme and Susie Bolam of Hudson Earth Keepers, and many volunteered, have just completed the 4th annual Hudson Earth Week cleanup. Rob and Susie want to thank everyone who got out during the week to make our town litter-free. The volunteers included many Hudsonite and friends, the entire School of St. Thomas, classes at Mount Pleasant, the leadership class at Westwood Senior, and a very large group of the Scouts and Beavers. Hundreds of volunteers, hundreds of hours of cleanup, and thousands of pounds of garbage collected from every corner of Hudson made this massive cleanup and beautification of our town another great success. On another positive note, this month also marks Marie-Jacinthe Robert's first anniversary with us at the town of Hudson. So here is our Director General to my right, sitting next to our interim clerk. So thank you, Marie-Jacinthe. Merci for your energy, your care, and your assiduity. I know that we're not always easy to please, that I get, and that we continue to keep you running off your feet. But I have to say that you've been remarkable, and if the communication process or rollout for Sandy Beach has been such a success, it is really thanks to your experience and what you brought to the table and your ability to bring the team together and make sure that the message is clear and that there is a constructive fallout that comes from this. So thank you again. As for announcements, the pool registration took place yesterday morning. With regards to some cultural events taking place this month, the Greenwood Singers Spring Concert takes place on Saturday, May 11th at St. Mary's Church, starting at 7:30 p.m. The Hudson Chamber Music on May 12th. There will be a piano concert at St. Thomas Church at 2 p.m. The cost is $20 at the door, and admission for youth under 14 is free. This is for the Concours Musical International de Montréal, so the piano concert. The CMIM brings to the forefront the world's finest young artists, helping to launch their careers on the world stage. Also, on May 25th of 2024, is the second gala, so annual fundraising of the Hudson Creative Hub, celebrating the 60 years of Bossa Nova. This will take place at the Murphy's Estate starting at 6:30 p.m. You can find the tickets online through the Hudson Creative Hub. On May 26th, on Sunday, between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. at St. Thomas Park, there will be the British Car Show. This is organized by the Hudson Antique Car Club. Last year, this drew 195 cars and hundreds of visitors. And finally, at the beginning of June, Greenwood Storyfest will be opening their 23rd literary festival season with Nala Ayed. Nala is a best-selling author, award-winning reporter, and host of CBC's Ideas. Tickets are $20 in person at the door, and the event will take place here at the Community Center. With regards to committees, TPAC met last Tuesday, so TPAC is the Town Planning Advisory Committee, and the Cultural Policy Committee held its fourth meeting on April 23rd of 2024. The next step of this process will be public consultations to take place most likely this fall, and also the release of the results of the survey that was conducted by the Hudson Arts and Culture Council last year. With regards to upcoming meetings, there will be, again, Coffee with the Mayor next Saturday, May 11th, from 10 a.m. till noon. This is at Halcrow Cottage, 539 Main. I know this is Mother's Day, but perhaps you'll come and celebrate at least 2 hours with me, and I promise to bring cookies, as usual. With regards to work with external consultants, there are several on the table right now. We have started working on the master's plan for parks and green spaces. So this is for a planning vision over 10 years that will cover the years between 2025 and 2035. There will be extensive consultation periods as well in the fall again, with aim of presenting results early next year. We are also working with a firm called Aucun for strategic support with regards to approaching redevelopment differently in the village core. So this is for the co-design on 2 properties where there are presently developers looking to present multi-residential units. These are for the 498 Main and 514 Main. Both are redevelopment projects and situated along Main, which has commercial benefits, but also it is important to us that we begin to encourage developers to bring projects that are more in tune with what Hudsonites are looking for, but also the character and the history of our town, the texture and the different variations and volume. So essentially moving away from the rectangular brick box that we have seen a lot of lately. Also, the call to tender for the conservation plan was published on the SEAO website and has been since April 25th. The tenders will be open on May 16th, followed by a period of analysis for Council's review and approval at next month's Council meeting. Finally, on lifting the RCI, so the interim control measures, this is the moratorium that we had placed on certain permits since December 2021, as the town prepared changes to the urban planning regulations to include better protection measures of natural areas of interest and of remarkable trees. These measures resulted in the draft bylaws 726-2024 and 768-2024, where the first draft was adopted in January. As I shared in my February 17th letter, the consultation report, including the consolidation of your comments, has been made available online. Your comments were certainly the substance from which our work and adjustments were generated, so thank you for your active and generous participation. That period was also followed by working sessions between Council and Town's technical team in March and in April, where the consultation report and key changes brought to the bylaws were presented to the public on April 24th of 2024. You can find the presentation and the video caption of that evening's presentation online as well. So again, as mentioned in my letter, the process from draft adoption in January to the final adoption this evening will have taken almost 4 months. While I know that for some, this does not come across as long enough period for review, consultation, and revisions, we must move forward. I have made a personal commitment to a group of commercial property owners to sit and exchange with them on how the bylaw containing contributions could further be improved to best represent and support the needs and realities of residents, but also of commercial property owners. And this will be done. So now, moving on to this evening's agenda. Item 1.1 for the adoption of the agenda. I'd like to inform the people in the room that the Town Council meeting is being filmed, so when you come to the microphone, just remember to present yourself. You don't necessarily need to give the address of where you reside, but to confirm that you are a Hudson resident, and just remember that your comments are filmed and will be placed online. So this resolution is that the agenda of the regular council meeting of May 6th of 2024 be and is hereby adopted as submitted. En français. Alors, je vous informe dans un premier temps que la séance du conseil municipal est filmée. Alors, nous procédons 1.1, adoption de l'ordre du jour. Alors, la présente résolution vise à ce que l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du conseil du 6 mai soit adopté tel que soumis. Merci. Do I have a proposer? Read. Seconded by Peter Mate. So are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 2, confirmation of minutes. Item 2.1, confirmation of the April 2nd, 2024 regular meeting minutes. This resolution is that the minutes of council meeting held on April 2nd of 2024 be and is hereby approved as submitted. En français. Section 2, approbation des procès-verbaux. 2.1, adoption du procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 2 avril 2024. La présente résolution vise à ce que le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 2 avril 2024 soit approuvé par les présents tel que soumis. Merci. Do I have a proposer to my right? Benoît Blais, seconded to my right. You weren't there? To my left. Reed Thompson, that's right, we weren't, several of us weren't here, us three weren't here. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none, it is carried unanimously. We are now at the first question period. I remind you to keep your questions brief, and that as per our bylaw on the conduct of council meetings, in theory, the first question period should be reduced or kept to 15 minutes, and the second one at the end of the meeting to 30 minutes. There aren't that many people in the room today, but just to try to keep your questions to a minimum. So usually it's one question with a related follow-up question. I do give some liberty to that, and I will alternate between questions in the room and questions online. And if you have two questions that are not related, I ask that you ask your first one if you'd like at the first, and then wait for the second question period for your second question. So the question period is open. Please come to the mic or signal your interest for a question online by raising your hand.
Good evening, and congratulations on that first grandchild. I'm Dennis de Braga, is my name.
Yes, I remember you well. Thank you.
So my question is an ask, but I'll tell you why first and foremost. As anybody who owns a pool in the town of Hudson knows that in 2025, the law that was to kick in this year has been extended to 2025 by the provincial government, where anyone who has a pool must conform to the existing laws. And I'm not here to question the existing laws. I had children growing up, and now they're all gone, so it's just me and my wife. But nonetheless, we need to respect that law. My concern is that a lot of these swimming pools were built over the years, like mine. And a lot of them, and I actually checked on Google Earth to see in town what they look like, and a lot of people have exhaustive rock gardens and whatnot around their swimming pools. So it's not so simple as to just put in a fence for $15,000 when you have to fulfill all the requirements in terms of setbacks. And even with the setbacks, you're going to be destroying people's backyards. C'est la vie. I have no problem with that. I tried to get some information from the town, and all I got on several attempts was really the provincial bylaw followed with the town bylaw. So my ask, Mayor Hutchison, is that you arrange for a public information session where people who are going to be faced with substantial expenses, so that they're aware of what can be done. The last thing I want is to embark on a project, and when you send your various inspectors, that they tell me, non, ça marche pas comme ça, monsieur. So I'd like to have that information, question it. I've already checked with several suppliers. I can bring that to said meeting, should it take place, and say, look, here's what I'm proposing. Does this work? I'm not trying to contravene the bylaw. I'm not asking you to change the bylaw. I'm just trying to understand it more. So do you think something along those lines, an information session could be set?
Well, I know that for public safety, right, these laws have come in. There's been a lot of des noyades, so in English, drownings of young children, unfortunately. So a lot of people have fenced, their entire property and not necessarily right up against their pool, which is where often these accidents happen. But I do like your idea. I think to begin with, what we can start is having a pamphlet, a one-pager that explains clearly with some imagery on, here's the height requirement, here are the setbacks requirement, and here's the number. It would be maybe interesting as well to have more of a sort of a kiosk or something where people can say, I have a different situation, how would that apply, or sort of an atelier maybe. But we'll look at that. We have until, or properties have until, I believe the deadline was extended to the end of 2025 from memory. So we have a little bit of time, but I think a pamphlet in both languages that's available online and mailed out would be a good place to begin. And then maybe to assign one person specifically on given days and say, if you have questions specific to pools, there could be fast tracking, maybe that.
I think that'll work. Again, the problem is, in my case, the yard is entirely fenced, and it has been since the 90s.
Right.
So, but now we need to have a fence within a fence. If you look at the government website says, well, you don't need a fence within a fence as long as access from your back patio and so on is blocked, so you can't get into the backyard. So again, there's still some confusion, and that's why I would like you to undertake this information session, so we can do it either by blocking the access from patios to the back or just putting an entire new fence.
I appreciate your suggestion. Thank you so much. Are there any questions online?
Chloé, si je peux me permettre, on a déjà un peu d'informations sur les piscines.
Faut que tu parles plus proche de ton micro.
Pardon. On a déjà un petit peu d'informations sur les piscines résidentielles sur notre site Web.
Parfait.
Mais on va voir, en fait, s'il y a moyen de bonifier l'information pour la réglementation provinciale et la réglementation municipale.
So Marie-Jacinthe just added that there is already some information on our website, but she will look to make sure that if there's additional material that needs to be added, that we will do so. But please at least consult our website. There is already some information there. C'est bon. Il n'y a pas de questions en ligne de ce que je vois, donc allez-y, Monsieur Marleau.
Normand Marleau, je demeure sur la rue Cédar. L'année passée, il y a 1 an exactement, je suis venu ici au micro et j'ai communiqué avec vous, même avant, au sujet du bruit causé par le cardinal du jeudi au dimanche, de soirée de 6 h à 11 h à tous les soirs, ou presque. Et ça recommence. En fin de semaine, ça a recommencé. On est dans notre chambre à coucher. La drum, on l'entend, ça vibre dans notre chambre. Il y a un problème à ce niveau-là. Il faudrait que ça soit résolu le plus tôt possible. Parce que si vous regardez l'agenda de ce propriétaire-là, de ses activités cet été, ça va être le bordel tout l'été. Et on n'est plus capable de vivre ça. Il y a déjà un de nos citoyens qui a fait des plaintes, puis on a avisé durant tout l'été avec des emails pour aviser de la situation. Il n'y a rien qui change. C'est inacceptable. J'ai le respect de mes voisins. J'aimerais ça que mes voisins aient le respect pour moi aussi. C'est le minimum que je demande. On parle d'une ville, Hudson, que c'est paisible de vivre. Pour moi, c'est plus paisible de vivre ici, là. Puis notre voisin qui faisait des plaintes aussi, il a mis sa maison en vente. Il déménage.
Merci, M. Marleau. Je pense que vous avez rencontré notre directrice générale à plusieurs reprises.
Mais
aussi,
je ne comprends pas pourquoi il n'y a pas d'action.
J'aimerais finir de parler, s'il vous plaît. Donc, je suis bien consciente de vos rencontres, de vos demandes, justement, d'action. Du côté des élus, nous nous sommes rassemblés à plusieurs reprises pour en discuter, justement, de quelles seraient les mesures. Nous avons aussi rencontré les propriétaires ou les opérateurs de bars et de restaurants pour avoir cette conversation avec eux en leur disant il va falloir mettre en place des mesures qui assurent justement cette quiétude pour l'ensemble des résidents qui sont à proximité de chez vous. Donc, nous faisons notre travail. Nous voulons y aller de manière collaborative au lieu de manière punitive. C'est un travail qui prend du temps. Je sais que pour vous, ce n'est pas assez rapide, mais je vous assure que nous travaillons sur ce dossier.
Pouvez-vous m'expliquer pourquoi, durant l'hiver, on n'a pas de problème avec la musique?
Je vous dirais que probablement c'est une différente clientèle, puis l'animation est différente.
C'est parce que les portes sont fermées, puis ils respectent l'espace de leur salle de spectacle. Quand ils ouvrent les portes durant l'été, là, ça devient une salle de spectacle pour la ville. Puis on entend ça jusqu'à Saint-Jean, une rue plus haute. Les gens, en arrière de ça, il y a beaucoup de locataires. Ils ne veulent pas faire de plainte. Je parlais avec une de mes voisines, elle a dit « Je ne peux pas faire de plainte, j'ai peur que quelqu'un vienne empoisonner mon chien dans le cour. » Puis oui, ça existe des choses comme ça. Je ne veux pas aller jusqu'à là. Non, pas votre part. Pas ça, c'est certain. Mais il faut mettre quelque chose vite et pas passer un autre été.
Nous travaillons justement à mesurer, à avoir des données mesurables avec lesquelles nous allons pouvoir établir éventuellement un seuil sonore. Et nous avons aussi fait énormément de recherches par rapport à ce qu'il se fait, ce qui est applicable, ce qui fonctionne dans d'autres villes et aussi ce que nous pouvons soutenir. Donc, de ce côté-là, nous continuons de faire beaucoup de travail. Nous préparons aussi un règlement qui, si jamais les choses n'atteignent pas un niveau d'acceptabilité d'ici, disons, la fin du mois de juillet, que nous serions prêts à imposer justement des décibels et des amendes beaucoup plus sévères.
Ça veut dire qu'on va passer un été d'enfer encore?
Pas nécessairement. Donc, je vous demande d'avoir confiance en notre travail. Nous travaillons sur ce dossier à tous les mois.
Merci.
Bienvenue. Would anyone like me to translate the content of that exchange? No? No one online? All right. Are there any questions online? There are now 18 people online. Please go ahead, Madame Perrault.
Oui, bonjour. Félicitations aussi pour votre petit-fils ou petite-fille, là.
Petit-fils, merci.
Petit-fils. Alors, c'était une belle expérience. Je vous souhaite beaucoup de bonheur.
Merci beaucoup.
Alors, Chantal Perrault, Stonecrest à Hudson. J'aimerais savoir, parce qu'on a vu là, le projet de règlement pour la fermeture là, de Sandy Beach, et j'ai deux questions, en fait. Est-ce que vous avez requis une opinion légale sur la légalité de fermer Sandy Beach?
Absolument. Nous travaillons très proche avec Danton-Rainville sur toutes les questions de développement. Et aussi, dans ce cas-ci, c'est vraiment la firme qui a suivi le projet de Sandy Beach le plus longtemps. Donc, tous nos règlements ce soir ont été révisés par cette personne-là qui connaît très bien nos dossiers.
OK, c'est un avocat, là?
Notre avocate.
Ah, d'accord. Donc, ma compréhension, c'est En fait, c'est ça, j'essaie de comprendre pourquoi c'est nécessaire de fermer Sandy Beach, parce que je ne comprends pas.
Donc, les accès, comme vous le savez, se situent sur une propriété privée. Donc, de continuer tel qu'il est prévu présentement serait à encourager les gens à continuer à passer sur propriété privée. Nous-mêmes n'avons pas l'accès à la plage, donc il nous devient difficile d'en assurer la sécurité et la propreté et ainsi de suite. Nous ne pouvons pas y aménager des poubelles, nous ne pouvons pas y aménager des toilettes pour s'assurer qu'il y ait la propreté. Donc c'est dans ce sens-là qu'on a convenu avec le propriétaire qu'il nous accorde un accès temporaire pour nous assurer justement que la plage est fermée. Nous avons convenu avec lui qu'on pourrait mettre en place ce règlement sur sa propriété qui est privée afin d'émettre des constats pour assurer justement la sécurité des lieux et la propreté des lieux. Donc, c'est dans le respect de cette propriété privée que nous travaillons dans ce sens-là. Et évidemment, l'intention, c'est d'éventuellement avoir le lien public qui va se faire directement entre notre propriété publique et la servitude. OK.
Mais deux petites questions. Donc, ma compréhension, c'est que quelqu'un qui irait en canot ou en kayak, mettre le petit orteil sur Sandy Beach, est passible de se faire donner une amende de 100 $.
Bien, disons que pour nous, il serait très difficile de savoir comment une personne s'est rendue là. Est-ce qu'elle s'est rendue là en canot ou à pied? Donc, le plus simple et le plus équitable, c'est justement de fermer à tous et à toutes l'accès à cette plage-là. Nous avons vu les commentaires en ligne à savoir est-ce que ça ne serait pas une contrainte à d'autres règlements, d'autres lois. Pour l'instant, puis on est encore à s'assurer de cette vérification-là. Comme vous le savez, ce soir, c'est un avis de motion et un premier projet. Donc, si nous trouvons que dans les prochains jours, d'ici lundi, on fera un ajustement dans ce sens-là. Mais il faut comprendre qu'il y a une cohérence à maintenir dans ce sens-là. C'est que si les gens commencent à arriver par radeau ou par d'autres choses, c'est que l'interdiction d'accès à la plage, nous serions plus en mesure d'être responsables pour sa bonne tenue, ce qui est présentement notre obligation par rapport à la servitude. Donc, c'est vraiment important que le public comprenne qu'il faut respecter les mesures qui sont en place. Autrement, cette servitude-là devient de plus en plus difficile à maintenir. Et c'est vraiment important qu'on respecte les attentes du propriétaire privé dans ce sens-là.
En fait, moi, la dernière question que j'aurais sur le même sujet, c'est est-ce que la Ville a reçu des procédures légales par le propriétaire privé là, pour annuler l'entente de 2017. Donc, cette entente-là, techniquement, est toujours en force, est toujours bonne.
Exact.
Et donc, tant que cette entente-là est bonne, est-ce que... Ma compréhension, c'est que c'est peut-être le propriétaire privé qui n'est pas dans son droit d'interdire de passer pour aller à une servitude. Parce que si on a une servitude sur la plage et qu'on est enclavé, il y a une obligation dans le Code civil du fonds servant de donner accès. Alors, moi, je vais juste vous dire...
Et l'accès sera donné à partir de la propriété publique.
Oui, mais peut-être que le fonds, la propriété privée pourrait être obligée aussi de donner accès. Et c'est ça que je vous demande juste...
Pour l'instant, je dirais qu'il est important que nous tenions ou nous entretenions des rapports qui soient agiles et aussi respectueux avec le propriétaire. Donc, pour l'instant, nous souhaitons travailler avec le propriétaire et non dans un esprit où c'est quoi qu'il en soit. Il faut comprendre que c'est une situation sensible. On est mieux d'y aller en collaboration avec eux et de travailler pour une pérennité de l'accès à cette plage.
OK, mais en tout cas, moi, je fais juste suggérer d'être certain d'avoir une bonne opinion légale par quelqu'un qui est en droit de la propriété des immeubles pour savoir si, au lieu de faire tout le processus pour faire un chemin sur la partie publique qui serait un problème écologique pour le milieu riverain, est-ce que la Ville serait dans ses droits d'exiger le respect, d'avoir un droit de passage pour aller à la plage, même sur la propriété privée.
Encore, je pense qu'il faut vraiment entretenir cette relation qui soit amicale.
Non, je fais juste vous dire que c'est bon de regarder toutes nos options.
Absolument.
Parce que l'autre solution, on sait qu'elle va prendre des années, puis peut-être elle ne sera jamais acceptée. Alors, je vais juste dire que ça serait bon d'être certain d'avoir une bonne opinion légale pour connaître nos droits face à ça.
Très bien. Merci beaucoup. Did anyone want me to translate that one? I think they would like me to.
So my only point is that since I understand that the 2017 agreement with the formerly NINANCO has not been annulled by any tribunal, that is still in force and it's registered, then my point is that we should make sure that we have a strong legal opinion telling the town if we can enforce a right of passage on the private property as a more efficient and cheaper option than to have the Ministère de l'Environnement to give permission to build something on the...
And my answer was, we work already...
C'est parce que vous me demandez de traduire ma réponse. Là.
Oui, mais je pense qu'on a compris l'intention. We understood the gist, I believe, of this exchange. And my answer was that we already work with a legal firm. We will certainly continue to make sure that all of those elements are looked into, but our intention is to work collaboratively with the owners and not through force. So if we want this servitude to continue and for amicable relations to continue, we need to work as a team and not through force. So thank you. Are there any questions online? No?
Yes, so Helen Kurganski. So is there anything that we, the citizens, can do to help to save Sandy Beach for the citizens of the town?
Respect the requirements and the signs that are asking for no trespassing on private property, and trust that we are working diligently through the file and looking to come to some sort of permanent solution with regards to continued use of the beach.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Please come ahead.
Pierre Séguin.
Bonjour, Monsieur Séguin.
C'est sur la plage et les sentiers.
Oui.
Si j'ai bien compris, dans un premier temps, les sentiers qui sont sur le terrain privé
oui.
et la plage d'une servitude, ça, je comprends ça. Mais et les sentiers qui donnent accès à la plage vont être... les accès vont être contrôlés par, je présume, la patrouille qu'on va revoir un jour pour donner des constats, là, que vous parliez de donner des constats.
Les accès sont bloqués par le propriétaire privé.
Non, je comprends, mais...
Nous allons nous assurer que la plage, il n'y aura personne sur la plage.
Je parle des sentiers, parce que, je ne sais pas, vous êtes allé, j'imagine?
Oui.
Bon, les blocs de ciment, j'y vais tous les jours.
Oui.
Très bien, ce sont les blocs de ciment. Avec les poteaux qui ont mis notre espace, qui sont tous à terre, arrachés, de toute façon.
Manque de respect de propriété.
Du bloc de ciment, et voilà. Qui va contrôler l'accès entre le bloc de ciment sur le terrain privé jusqu'à la plage?
Cette partie-là revient essentiellement aux propriétaires. Nous allons nous assurer que la plage comme telle, il nous donne, on espère, sous une entente qu'on est en train de développer, qu'il nous donne l'accès à la plage pour qu'on puisse s'assurer, donc patrouiller la plage.
Oui, parce que techniquement, vous ne pouvez même pas vous rendre à la plage, même par retour. Ça, j'ai compris ça. Je trouverais malheureux que nous payons des agents pour donner des constats à des gens qui sont dans l'illégalité, mais pas à la plage. La plage, je peux comprendre la certitude, mais sur le sentier, juste au bord du bloc de ciment.
On s'entend.
Merci. Question. J'imagine que les pancartes que vous avez tout le tour, qui sont encore présentes, les pancartes qui sont très bien faites, là, que oui. Sandy Beach, que ce que vous ne pouvez pas faire, puis tout ça, j'imagine qu'ils vont tous être enlevés.
Il y a des... Oui, vous avez raison.
Qui disent welcome,
il y a des enseignes en production présentement qui vont venir se juxtaposer à ces enseignes et remplacer, en fait, le message.
OK. J'arrive à mon dernier point, mon point à ce moment-là. Je vois dans le projet de loi que l'accès aux chiens entre 9h et 5h demeure interdit. je promène un chien et je respecte, je suis un des rares qui respecte cette consigne-là l'été, puis c'est un peu frustrant, là. Mais je me demandais pourquoi maintenir tant et aussi longtemps qu'on n'aurait pas développé le nouveau sentier. Cette consigne-là, ça va donner moins d'ouvrage à vos patrouilleurs qui ne font pas respecter de toute façon. Si les chiens pouvaient, pour cet été, garder l'accès normal, ça vous compliquerait pas la vie pour une pancarte.
Nous avons reçu plusieurs commentaires à ce sujet-là, puis justement, dans le règlement, on vient écourter la période d'interdiction. Habituellement, elle commence le 1er mai et on propose de la ramener au 1er juin. Donc, ça va nous montrer si, pendant le mois de mai, les gens sont assez respectueux quand même et qu'il n'y a pas de problème, on pourrait regarder à l'enlever plus longtemps.
Madame, je peux vous garantir qu'ils ne l'ont jamais respecté. Les gens, ils ne la respecteront pas plus. Alors, je propose, je questionne pourquoi on ne l'enlève tout simplement pas pour cet été, tant que vous n'aurez pas refait, donné un accès à la servitude. Ce n'est pas un grand bout de sentier.
Non.
Puis vous cherchez des endroits pour les gens quoi faire, mais ce serait quelque chose à considérer et moins dur à contrôler.
C'est quand même une zone qui est assez petite, donc il va y avoir évidemment plus d'achalandage, plus de chiens, ça peut causer des problèmes, mais on va le surveiller et puis il est possible qu'on vienne davantage écourter la période ou l'enlever complètement comme vous l'avez proposé.
OK.
Merci beaucoup. Does anyone want me to translate that one? No? We're good? All right. Are there any questions online? I don't see any. Monsieur Dion, yes? 15? Bon, on va dire que Monsieur Dion est la dernière personne.
Toujours sur Sandy Beach, j'ai entendu votre explication que ça serait difficile de valider si les gens sont venus en kayak, en canot ou autrement. Donc, on veut punir tout le monde parce qu'on ne peut pas vérifier. Vu que Sandy Beach est fermé pour l'été, est-ce qu'on va demander aux citoyens qui ont des piscines de ne pas utiliser leur piscine durant l'été?
Je ne pense pas qu'on peut comparer aussi simplement que ça.
Je comprends, mais j'aimerais attirer votre attention sur le ridicule. Je pense qu'il y a un peu une guerre d'usure dans toute cette histoire-là. Je ne suis pas un résident de longue date, mais si les gens ont l'habitude d'aller en canot, en kayak...
C'est un petit peu comme une situation où vous allez avoir peut-être une ou deux personnes qui vont y aller par kayak, mais dès qu'il y a quelques personnes qui vont y aller, il y en a d'autres qui vont s'infiltrer d'une autre manière.
Oui.
Donc, ça devient ingérable pour la patrouille communautaire. Puis
pourquoi la patrouille communautaire a besoin de s'impliquer?
Parce qu'autrement, nous ne pourrons pas faire respecter l'engagement qu'on prend avec le propriétaire privé.
OK. Pourquoi un engagement avec le propriétaire privé qui nous fait des difficultés?
C'est sa
propriété. Pourquoi on veut être fin avec quelqu'un qui est agressif?
C'est sa propriété privée. Il a été très tolérant à justement concéder l'accès à cette plage au travers de sa propriété privée. Je pense qu'on l'a pris pour acquis. On en a bien profité, puis on en est très reconnaissant. Mais quelque part, je pense que quand il nous donne un signal qui est très fort, qu'il veut que la situation cesse, il est important qu'on respecte les limites qu'il nous met. Donc, dans ce sens-là, c'est notre responsabilité de le faire.
Je ne suis pas sûr que je suis d'accord avec ce que vous dites.
Je comprends.
C'est une question de citoyen et d'un propriétaire privé. Je ne suis pas sûr que la Ville a besoin de se mettre les deux pieds avec des agents qu'on va devoir payer pour émettre 3 constats par jour.
La servitude est liée. Il y a des éléments qui sont inclus dans la servitude, dont la sécurité et l'entretien de la plage.
Okay.
Nous ne pourrions pas remplir cette partie de l'entente et c'est là qu'il y aurait possiblement des problèmes au futur avec la servitude.
J'aimerais vous reprendre sur ça parce qu'en termes de sécurité et de propreté à Sandy Beach, les services sont microscopiques, sinon inexistants. Moi, j'étais très déçu de l'année dernière quand on est allé à la plage. Il n'y a pas de poubelle, il y a des traîneries, il n'y en a pas de ménage.
Je pense qu'il y a quand même eu un entretien, imaginez-vous, s'il n'y en avait pas eu du tout. Donc, je vous remercie pour votre question.
Merci.
Je suis sûre que vous n'êtes pas le seul avec cette même opinion, mais nous avons un devoir et des responsabilités à respecter. So, moving on with the rest of the agenda. Section 3, Urban Planning and Environment. Item 3.1, 711 Main, SPAPE, Accessory Building. Read.
Good evening. So a permit request was received for the building of an accessory building at 711 Main, whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to approve this SPAPE, this resolution is to approve the SPAPE of the permit modification request for 711 Main.
En français.
Alors, section 3, urbanisme et environnement. 3.1, 711 Main, PIA, bâtiment accessoire. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour la construction d'un bâtiment accessoire pour le 711 rue Main. La recommandation unanime du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme d'approuver le PIA. Donc, la présente résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de modification du permis pour le 711 rue Main.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.2, 521 Main, SPAPE, major renovation. Reed.
A permit request was received for major renovation works at 521 Main, whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to refuse the SPAPE due to these unfulfilled criteria. Ensure, in the case of a building of heritage interest, a restoration approach rather than a renovation approach in order to restore the building to its original character. Ensure, in the case of a building of heritage interest, if renovations have already altered the original character, the return to the original state. And finally, to reflect the architecture of neighboring heritage buildings. This is to refuse the SPAPE permit request for 521 Main.
Thank you. En français.
Point 3.2, 521 Main, PIA, rénovation majeure. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour des travaux de rénovation majeure pour le 521 Main. Considérant la recommandation unanime du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme de refuser le PIA à cause des critères non remplis, soit assurer, dans le cas d'un bâtiment d'intérêt patrimonial, une approche de restauration plutôt qu'une approche de rénovation, afin de redonner au bâtiment son caractère d'origine, d'assurer, dans le cas d'un bâtiment d'intérêt patrimonial, si des rénovations ont déjà altéré le caractère original, le retour à l'état original, et un rappel de l'architecture des bâtiments avoisinants ayant une valeur patrimoniale. Donc, la présente résolution vise à refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 521 Main.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.3, 521 Main, SPAPE addition of the accessory building. Reed.
A permit request was received for an accessory building, also at 521 Main, whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to approve conditionally the SPAPE. This resolution is to approve the SPAPE of the permit request with the following condition, that the trims be the same color as the siding of the detached garage.
3.3, 521 Main, PIA, agrandissement du bâtiment accessoire. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour un bâtiment accessoire pour le 521 Main. Considérant la recommandation unanime du CCU d'approuver conditionnement le PIA, la présente résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 521 Main avec la condition suivante, que les moulures soient de la même couleur que le revêtement du garage détaché.
Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.4, 172 Main, SPAPE, major renovations.
A permit request was received for major renovation works at 172 Main. Whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to approve the SPAPE, this resolution is to approve the SPAPE of the permit request for 172 Main.
En français.
Le point 3.4, 172 Main, PIA, rénovation majeure. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour des travaux de rénovation majeure pour le 172 Main. Considérant la recommandation unanime du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme d'approuver le PIA, la présente résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 172 Main.
Merci. Do I have a mover? A seconder? Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.5, 6973B, Cameron, SPAPE sign. Read.
A certificate of authorization request was received for a new communal signpost containing 4 new signs at 69 to 73B Cameron. Whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to approve the SPAPE, this resolution is to approve the SPAPE of the certificate of authorization request for 69 to 73B Cameron.
3. Le point 3.5, 69-73B Cameron, PIA enseigne. Une demande de certificat d'autorisation a été reçue pour l'installation d'une nouvelle structure d'enseigne communautaire comprenant 4 enseignes pour le 69-73B. Considérant la recommandation unanime du CCU d'approuver le PIA, la présente résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de certificat d'autorisation pour le 69-73B Cameron.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reid Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.6, 898 Main, request to appeal the Demolition Committee's decision. So whereas the decision of the Demolition Committee to refuse the demolition of the building located at 898 Main at its meeting held on February 7th of 2024, whereas the owner of the building has appealed the decision of the Demolition Committee, whereas among the evaluation criteria to be taken into consideration, Council gives precedence to the following elements: the condition of the immovable referred to in the application, the deterioration of the architectural appearance, the aesthetic character or the quality of the neighborhood, so the distinctive architectural style which merit preservation in view of the town's visual qualities, the age of the building, if it is 75 years or more, the building's history is of particular interest to the community. Interested parties in the proceedings are invited to be heard by Council. So please come to the microphone or signal your interest online by raising your hand so that we can hear your comments and anything that you wish to bring to our attention. I received a letter from the owner today who was asking for clarity on a question. Essentially, he was establishing, I'm trying to see if I have all of the elements here. I had hoped that he was going to be in the room, so let's see. The comments were here, I believe. Urban planning. There's several questions. Do you remember? I know, but there was a preamble to it. Do you remember the preamble? Which I didn't print. So there were several preambles essentially explaining how he had followed a due procedure and how he hadn't received notice. Merci. Toujours bien organisé. Merci, ma chère. So here. This is received at lunchtime today. So his comments are, there's 12 of them, the last one being the question. So the first one, he says, this is in his words, this is Patrick Menegoz, the owner. We went through the TPAC process and got approved. No mention of limitation to demolish existing buildings. We requested a demolition permit as was required. There are no town of Hudson records of this being a historical building other than the Hudson Historical Society wish list for 100 houses of interest in Hudson. We were not advised by the real estate agent or previous owner that this was under heritage conditions. Now we have appealed the demolition decision. The building is over 150 years old. It is a wooden structure and the foundations are crumbling. The plumbing, septic system, and electricity are very deficient and unsanitary. We are not aware of any renowned person having habitated the house. We see no architectural or heritage reasons that would impose its conservation. We can let the building destroy itself over time as there is no desire to make any attempt to refurbish it. And the question is, what does the Town Council suggest to be done? So essentially, We do have, the reason this has come back to the whole of council, obviously the demolition committee is a decisional committee, and it is composed of some members of council. It comes back to council as a whole when there is either an appeal made by a member of the public or when there's an appeal made by the owner. In this case, there is actually a substantial amount of history that has been collected through the years through different people in the community. Yes, the Hudson Historical Society, but that list of addresses of interest is actually in the annex of our master plan called our urban planning program. So it is available online. It is available to anyone who looks into it. It is true that in the past we may not have highlighted this list. It is a wish of mine to bring it to the forefront and to have people realize that a certain amount of work has already gone into recognition of these buildings. But just to know that over the years there have been 3 mentions of this property in different books and write-ups on the heritage of our town. We have also placed online the extensive inventory that was done by the MRC, so this is the regional county, for heritage of value or properties of value found in Hudson. So you can find this under the urban planning tab on the Hudson's Towns website. And around page 484, there's 4 pages pertaining to this one address, and it gives some interesting notes as to the people who lived there and the family and the importance or the value of this property. So I am sorry that this has happened to you. Obviously, it is not unlike what has happened with 498 Main either, where more of the value or the history of these areas are becoming known to the public at large, and we hope to make this more and more a part of our conversations and the awareness of all, including real estate agents. With regards to what can be done, I believe that this house has a significant value. Perhaps it can be kept in its existing location added to. Certainly there's some interesting integration of more modern additions that can be done to heritage. Also something that has been sort of suggested around the table, it could be moved further back on the property, and again, different construction done there. So there's a variety of solutions, but ideally the house itself would be maintained and in French we say mise en valeur, so enhanced or showcased on this property, which is very close to one of the piers. And so the significance of this house is that it was a post office in the late 1800s, but also the site of one of those piers when the person who lived there would be selling wood in Montreal and sort of use that as one of the access points to transport the wood. So it's really the foundations of Hudson. It would be unfortunate to see it disappear, and we hope that we can motivate you to continue to cherish this building. Doug, did you want to add anything?
My understanding also at the time we evaluated this is that the owner, the petitioner owns the adjacent property. So he actually does have a piece of property that it can literally be moved to the west and resituated and possibly sold off to somebody who wants to rehabilitate it, but it isn't in the way of, it doesn't have to be in the way of his project. And it is one of those homes that deserves whatever degree of protection that we can give it.
I agree. So I've just found the excerpt from this this survey. So this site became the Graham Post Office in 1893. The name of the area and the railroad station was changed to Choisy in 1912. The first Graham farm still on the old Cavagnal lot number 47, a distance from William Jr.'s house. The Graham family history in Cavagnal begins with the arrival of Thomas Graham and his wife Elizabeth Fisher, who came with 3 children from Kirkoswald, Cumberland, England in 1834. The son, William Sr., 1818 to 1878, married Euphemia McCuish in 1842. This was the first marriage in St. James Anglican Church, and they had 12 children. He owned 6 farms at one time, and the original farm is still operated by Grahams. Howard and Stuart live there, and along with Howard's son, Donald. They operate the farm, so this, I believe, dates back to 1975, and he is the 5th generation descendant from Thomas Graham. There's other elements in here where, for example, the inventory states that there is value of age and art, where built in the mid-19th century, this house appears to be a rare example of a traditional house. Although it has been partially modernized, the original shape of the house seems to have been preserved. The rarity of this type of house, combined with its state of preservation and that it was built at an advanced age for Hudson, means that we can consider it to be an important piece of heritage in terms of its age and artistic value. It is situated on the banks of the Ottawa River in a rural part of the town of Hudson. This property, bordered by a low fieldstone wall, is a very good candidate for a positional value. And there is more. These are just extracts, but I do invite you to look further into this, and as mentioned, the inventory is online. So I don't know if Mr. Menengoz has come into the room. I wouldn't have recognized you, but if there's still someone who would like to be heard, raise a hand or come to the microphone with regards to this appeal. This would be the time to do so. I see no movement online. I see none in the room, so we will continue. This resolution, therefore, is to confirm the decision rendered by the Demolition Committee on February 7th of 2024 to refuse the request for demolition of the building located at 898 Main. En français.
Point 3.6, 898 Main, demande d'appel de la décision du comité de démolition considérant la décision du comité de démolition de refuser la démolition de l'immeuble situé au 898 Main lors de la séance tenue le 7 février 2024, considérant que le propriétaire de l'immeuble a interjeté l'appel de la décision du comité de démolition, considérant que parmi les critères d'évaluation à prendre en considération, le Conseil attribue une prépondérance aux éléments suivants: l'état de l'immeuble visé dans la demande, la détérioration de l'apparence architecturale, du caractère esthétique, le style architectural particulier qui mérite d'être conservé en fonction des qualités visuelles de la ville ou de la qualité de vie du voisinage, l'âge du bâtiment, s'il a 75 ans ou plus, l'historique du bâtiment représente un intérêt particulier pour la communauté. Aucune personne ne s'est fait entendre pendant cette séance. Donc, la présente résolution vise à confirmer la décision rendue par le comité de démolition le 7 février 2024 de refuser la demande de démolition du bâtiment situé au 898 rue Main.
Merci beaucoup. So, moved by Doug Smith, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any disagreements to this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.7, authorization to apply urban planning regulations. This is for a designation update, as we do each time we hire a new person or appoint a new person. Whereas the town adopted Resolution R 2023-12-290 awarding a service contract to Gestion électronique de services techniques et d'inspection municipale Inc., so GESTIM, for 2 resources in urban planning. This resolution is to appoint Simon Olivier Deng and Michael Proux as the authority having jurisdiction for the following bylaws, as well as all existing or future amendments. And this is a long list of numbers, so it goes 364, 471, 485, 526, 527, 528, 529, 558, 559, 564, 568, 571, 617, 622, 642, 650, 652, 667, 709, 715, 722, 723, 730, 733, 739, 743, 750, and 766. 68, and to appoint Alexandre Thibault in replacement of Simon Olivier Daigne or Michael Proux as authority having jurisdiction for the bylaws mentioned above, and to appoint any other existing or future employees of Gestion électronique de services techniques et d'inspection municipale Inc., so GESTIM, in replacement of Simon Olivier Daigne or Michael Proux as authority having jurisdiction for the bylaws mentioned above.
3.7, autorisation d'application des règlements d'urbanisme, mise à jour des désignations. Considérant la résolution R 2023-12-290 par laquelle la Ville a octroyé un contrat de service avec Gestion électronique de services techniques et d'inspection municipale incorporée, GESTIM, pour 2 ressources en urbanisme. Alors, la présente résolution vise à nommer Simon-Olivier Daigne et Michael Proux à titre de fonctionnaires désignés pour les règlements suivants, ainsi que tous leurs amendements en vigueur ou à venir. Les règlements ont déjà été mentionnés par Mme la mairesse. De nommer Alexandre Thibault en remplacement à Simon-Olivier Daigne ou Michael Proux à titre de fonctionnaires désignés pour les règlements mentionnés ci-haut. De nommer également tout autre employé existant ou futur de la compagnie GESTIM en remplacement à Simon-Olivier Daigne ou Michael Proux à titre de fonctionnaire désigné pour les règlements mentionnés ci-haut.
Merci. Do I have a mover? To my right, Peter Mate. To my left, Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.8, awarding of contract AO 2024-11-U, Community Patrol and Security Service Contract. Considering that the Community Patrol contract expired on December 31st of 2023, whereas the public call for tenders AO-2024-11-U was issued on April 8th of 2024 and published on SEAO, whereas the bids received were opened publicly on April 25th of 2024, whereas unfortunately only one firm submitted a bid. This is Groupe Sûreté Inc., the service de patrouille for the month of May to October of 2024 with an option of a mobile day during 2024. The service contract would be for $118,575.89, and for that mobile day in option, it's $11,027.94. So considering the compliance analysis carried out, this resolution would be to award to Groupe Sûreté Inc., the lowest and only conforming bidder, the contract for Community Patrol and Security Guard services for a 5-month period beginning May 20th of 2024, including the option of a random mobile day in the amount of, so the total of those two amounts, is $129,603.83 before taxes. En français.
Le point 3.8, octroi de contrat AO-2024-11-U, contrat de service de patrouille communautaire et de sécurité. Le contrat de patrouille communautaire est venu à échéance le 31 décembre 2023. Considérant que l'appel d'offres public AO 2024-11-U a été lancé le 8 avril 2024 et publié sur SEAO, considérant que les soumissions reçues ont été ouvertes publiquement le 25 avril 2024, considérant qu'une seule entreprise a soumis une offre, soit Groupe Sûreté Incorporé, pour le service de patrouille de mai à octobre 2024 pour 118 575,89 sous, avec une option d'une journée mobile aléatoire en 2024, 11 027,94 sous. Concernant l'analyse de conformité de la soumission, la résolution vise à octroyer à Groupe Sûreté Incorporé, le seul et plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de service de patrouille communautaire et d'agent de sécurité d'une durée de 5 mois débutant le 20 mai 2024, comprenant l'option de journée mobile aléatoire pour un montant total de 129 603,83 sous avant taxe.
Merci. So perhaps to explain, this is the same firm that had been servicing us last year for the full year. The price is comparable to what it had been last year for the full year. However, one of the reasons we think why we would have only had one one applicant is because we have increased the requirements in the tender documents, requiring for a GPS so that we can actually track where these people are. We've been receiving a lot of complaints complaints where it seems that these, the patrol is often just circulating or not addressing situations, whether it is situation of parking at Jack Layton or maybe even Sandy Beach, but other areas as well. So this will ensure that we can do better follow-up and tracking of that service and ensure that money is being well spent. And unfortunately, this also meant that other smaller companies were probably not able to comply to the level of expectations. So we decided to move forward with this, so to present this to resolution as we need absolutely service, at least for the summer period. And then we will revisit and see whether we need all of those bells and whistles, whether it has provided the desired effects. There are a lot of municipalities that don't even have a community patrol and just work off of the SQ, which we know there is a lag, and as we are having issues with sound, as you just heard Monsieur Marleau in the Corps, but also there is an increasing issue with loitering as well outside of bars and onto adjacent parking lots on other private properties. We really want to have better visibility, and also we know that with bridge closures that are likely to continue through the next few years while the bridge is being replaced, it is important for us to have that service in place to be able to keep the flow and to keep a certain sense of order. So it's not ideal, but we expect that reporting and controls of this service will be definitely stronger and tighter than it has been in the past. Est-ce que ça couvre tout?
A quick point of clarification. Yeah. This should also include extra patrol cars, correct?
C'est pour deux. La question c'était, ça inclut plus, davantage, donc de voitures.
Oui, absolument. C'est-à-dire que
veux-tu parler dans le microphone?
Auparavant, en fait, souvent, on avait 2 patrouilleurs dans le même véhicule. Maintenant, pour un beaucoup plus grand nombre d'heures à l'intérieur de la même semaine, on a 2 patrouilleurs, mais dans 2 véhicules distincts pour couvrir plus de territoire.
So the answer is yes. There will be not just 2 patrolmen or patrol persons in 1 car. There will be patrolmen in 2 cars, so we'll be able to cover a much larger surface area of the territory, and also with an increase of numbers of hours of coverage. So this should provide a better service during the summer. Did you want to add anything else? To my right? No? All good. So I will need a mover for this. Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand.
If I may.
You may.
I will break with my...
I am, thank you, grateful.
In the interest of the community's surveillance and protection, I will forego my...
I appreciate that, Doug. Rule. And also to note that we had gone out to tender in December, November, December, expecting to have full year coverage, but with these additional requirements, and no one applied. So this is another reason why then we delayed and started thinking about other measures. So hopefully this will deliver decent results. So I understand that there are no objections to this resolution and that it is carried unanimously, but please know that we've already given the signal that by the end of this contract we would like to know whether it has been conducive, whether it was worth it, and how we can continue to bring the costs into a tighter frame. Is that good? Item 3.9, pilot project, temporary terraces on public property. Whereas in previous years, temporary approval was granted to restaurant owners, allowing them to set up temporary terraces on public property due to special circumstances arising during the pandemic. Whereas Council wishes to carry out a pilot project with regards to the setting up of temporary terraces on public property in a controlled manner, this resolution is to initiate a pilot project for 2024 with regards to the setting up of temporary terraces on public domains subject to the following conditions. That a permit be required for any temporary terrace on the public domain and issued within 15 days of the presentation of the required documents, and upon payment of the fee fees imposed according to the $85 per square meter calculation. Details of the conditions set by Council by this resolution may be communicated to those interested upon request for information. En français.
3.9, projet pilote, occupation du domaine public par des terrasses temporaires. Considérant les permissions temporaires données aux restaurateurs par les années passées dans le contexte particulier entraîné par la pandémie, permettant l'aménagement de terrasses temporaires sur le domaine public. Considérant que le Conseil désire faire l'essai d'un projet pilote visant l'occupation du domaine public de manière encadrée. La résolution vise à lancer le projet pilote pour l'année 2024 visant l'occupation du domaine public par des terrasses temporaires aux conditions suivantes. Qu'un permis soit requis pour toute terrasse temporaire sur le domaine public et émis dans un délai de 15 jours suivant la présentation des documents requis et sur acquittement des frais imposés selon le calcul de 85 $ le mètre carré. Le détail des conditions établies par le Conseil par cette résolution peut être communiqué aux personnes intéressées sur demande d'information.
Merci. So there's about a page and a half of requirements. That's why we're not reading them in detail. But as Ms. McKercher explained, please just reach out to the town hall and ask for those details. You can have access to them. So I will need a mover to my right, Peter Mate, seconded to my left by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.10, tabling of the minutes for Town Planning Advisory Committee of March 2024. This is simply that members of Council take note of the tabling of the Town Planning Advisory Committee minutes. En français.
3.10, dépôt du procès-verbal du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme, mars 2024. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du procès-verbal du CCU.
Merci. So when we do these tablings, it's simply to make sure that these items are now available for public access, and also in this case, we have been posting them online for your access. You don't have to go through a request for information. You can actually find them online. There should be those since last year around the same time we started doing so. Item 3.11, tabling of the monthly report for permits issued of March 2024. Members of Council take note of the tabling of the monthly report for permits issued by the Urban Planning Department.
3.11, dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis en mars 2024. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis du service de l'urbanisme.
Merci. So similarly, this one we don't necessarily put it online, but it is accessible if you'd like to have it. You just simply have to ask our town clerk by email through her email address that you can find online. Section 4, Administration and Finance. Item 4.1, Approval of Disbursements for April 2024. This resolution is to approve the following disbursements as of April 25th of 2024 as presented, where the subtotal of payments is $1,270,316. There are 3 payrolls during this pay period. The first one for pay period 06 of $122,110.67. Pay period 07 is $124,925.78. Pay period 08 is $119,530.85 for a total of accounts paid of $1,636,884.10. En français.
La section Administration et Finances, 4.1, Approbation des paiements avril 2024. La résolution vise à approuver le paiement des comptes au 25 avril 2024 tel que présenté. Sous-total des paiements, 1 270 316,80 sous. La paie PP6, 122 110 et 66 sous. La paie pour la période 7, 124 925 et 78. Et la paie pour la période 8, 119 530 et 85 pour un total des comptes à payer de 1 636 884 et 10 sous.
Merci beaucoup. Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 5, Town Clerk, item 5.1, appointment of pro-maire for May 2024. This is one of my...
J'aimerais ajouter, Madame la mairesse, c'est pour mai et novembre 2024, parce qu'on va faire
De mai à novembre?
Non, de mai à novembre et pour la période de novembre 2024 à mai 2025.
Ah, d'accord.
On fait deux périodes de 6
So it's for the full year, but there's 2 coverages. So it's from May to November of 2024 and November to May of 2025. My favorite topic, so here we go. Considering Section 56 of the Cities and Towns Act, whereas according to the Act respecting municipal organization, Council may appoint from among its members a substitute to replace the mayor on the Council of the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges, whereas the Council intends to appoint a substitute to the pro-mayor. This resolution is that Councillor Reed Thompson be appointed again pro-mayor for a period of 6 months, starting May 15th of 2024 until November 15th of 2024, and as a substitute that Councillor Douglas Smith be designated substitute for Councillor Reed Thompson and be appointed pro-mayor in the absence of Councillor Reed Thompson for a period of 6 months, so the same period, starting May 15th, 2024 until November 15th of 2024. And for that next period, as we mentioned, that Councillor Mark Gray be appointed pro-mayor for a period of 6 months starting in November 15th of this year, 2024, until May 15th of next year, 2025, and that as a substitute, that Councillor Douglas Smith be designated substitute for Councillor Mark Gray and be appointed pro-mayor in the absence of Councillor Mark Gray for a period, the same period of 6 months starting November 15th of this year, 2024, until May 15th of next year, so 2025, and to appoint, in that case, Councillor Reed Thompson to replace the mayor on the council of the Municipalité Régionale de Comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges in case of absence, unavailability, or refusal to act or vacancy of the mayor for a period of 6 months starting this month, May 15th of 2024 until November 15th of 2024, and to designate Councillor Douglas Smith, substitute mayor, to replace mayor on the council of the Municipalité Régionale de Comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges in the event of absence, incapacity, refusal to act, or vacancy of the mayor and pro-mayor for a period of 6 months starting this month, May 15th, 2024 until November 15th of 2024. And for the following period, to appoint Councillor Mark Gray to replace the mayor on the council of the Municipalité Régionale de Comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges in case of absence, unavailability, or refusal to act or vacancy of the mayor for a period of 6 months starting May 15th of 2024 until May 15th of 2025. Ça devrait être novembre. So correcting this, if we're going to be consistent, so to appoint Councillor Mark Gray to replace the mayor on the council of the Municipalité Régionale de Comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges in case of absence and availability or refusal to act or vacancy of the mayor for a period of 6 months starting November 15th, 2024 until May 15th of 2025, and to designate Councillor Douglas Smith, substitute mayor, to replace the mayor on the council of the Municipalité Régionale de Comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges in the event of absence, incapacity, refusal to act, or vacancy of the mayor and pro-mayor for a period of 6 months starting November 15th, 2024 until May 15th of 2025. So that will leave one last period of 6 months, and I've already told Benoit he's it. He's shaking his head, but let's keep this fair. Everybody's going to go through this, and well, I think we'll designate you nonetheless. So, yeah.
Two things that I want to add.
Yep.
You can't go anywhere during this period.
Oh, I know.
I have to apparently call Air Transat and make sure that Mark can't fly outside these hours.
So the reason we have these substitutes is because we do have decently young and active, I think, council, which we like. I think it brings a lot of richness to our discussions, but it also means that as tonight, you see that we are fewer at the table. And as an example, last month, Darren had been named. He was the substitute to the Pro-Maire and had to step in for both of us, which was great that we had him. He also represented us at the MRC table for an extraordinary meeting that they called that had been unplanned. So it is very handy having you, and I think when I compare with other mayors, they tell me that there is no one on their council who wants to be pro-mayor, and in this case, there's a majority of the councillors who want to be pro-mayor, so I guess I'm very fortunate, even though it gives me the heebie-jeebies, and they know it. So that being said, is there a mover for this resolution? Benoit Blais, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this? En français, bon.
On se gâte.
Alors, nomination du maire suppléant pour les périodes de mai à novembre 2024 et novembre 2024 à mai 2025. Alors, considérant l'article 56 de la loi sur les cités et villes, considérant que suivant la loi sur l'organisation territoriale municipale, le conseil peut nommer parmi ses membres un substitut pour remplacer le maire du conseil de la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Considérant l'intention du conseil de nommer un substitut au maire suppléant, la résolution vise à nommer que le conseiller Reed Thompson soit nommé maire suppléant pour une période de 6 mois à compter du 15 mai 2024 jusqu'au 15 novembre 2024, que le conseiller Douglas Smith soit appelé à substituer le conseiller Reed Thompson et soit nommé maire suppléant en l'absence du conseiller Reed Thompson pour une période de 6 mois du 15 mai 2024 au 15 novembre 2024. Que le conseiller Mark Gray soit nommé maire suppléant pour une période de 6 mois à compter du 15 novembre 2024 jusqu'en mai 2025 et que le conseiller Douglas Smith soit appelé à substituer le conseiller Mark Gray et soit nommé maire suppléant à l'absence du conseiller Mark Gray pour une période de 6 mois à compter du 15 novembre au 15 mai 2025. De désigner le conseiller Reed Thompson pour remplacer la mairesse au conseil de la municipalité régionale du comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges en cas d'absence, d'empêchement ou de refus d'agir ou de vacances de la mairesse pour une période de 6 mois, du 15 mai 2024 au 15 novembre 2024. De désigner le conseiller Douglas Smith, substitut au maire suppléant, pour remplacer la mairesse du conseil de la municipalité régionale du comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges en cas d'absence, d'empêchement ou de refus d'agir ou de vacances de la mairesse et du maire suppléant pour une période de 6 mois, du 15 mai 2024 au 15 novembre 2024, pardon. De désigner le conseiller Mark Gray pour remplacer la mairesse au conseil de la municipalité régionale de comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges en cas d'absence, d'empêchement ou de refus d'agir ou de vacances de la mairesse pour une période de 6 mois à compter du 15 novembre 2024 jusqu'au 15 mai 2025. Et de désigner le conseiller Douglas Smith, substitut au maire suppléant, pour remplacer la mairesse au conseil de la municipalité régionale du comté de Vaudreuil-Soulanges en cas d'absence, d'empêchement ou de refus d'agir ou de vacances de la mairesse et du maire suppléant pour une période de 6 mois, soit du 15 novembre 2024 au 15 mai 2025.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you, everyone. So, of course, in an ideal world, it would be one term, one person, but I think we see that there's active will on the part of this council to be involved and to get a feel for what this might be like. So we are heureux or lucky, I guess, fortunate for this level of engagement. So thank you, everyone. C'était donc Benoit Blais et Peter Mate qui avaient. Et il n'y avait pas de refus ou d'objection, donc c'est adopté à l'unanimité. Item 5.2. Appointment to the Arts and Culture Committee, also known as the Hudson Arts and Culture Council, whereas Resolution R 2019-03-72, by which the Arts and Culture Committee was created, considering that members are appointed by resolution of the Council and that it is the Council's intention to appoint them for a 2-year term, so this is a change from the last resolution on this point. We went from 1 year to 2 years, which is standard for advisory committees. Considering that there have been no appointments to the committee since June of 2022, this resolution is that the following members be named at the Hudson Arts, Recreation and Cultural Council. Committee of Hudson for the period of 2 years from the date of their appointment. So Geneviève Grenier for the Building Heritage Sector, Clint Ward, Linda Clouet-Mackay, Chris Gobel, Anil Prakash, Camilio Gentile, Kalina Skolska, Reed Thompson as council member, and that Jamie Nichols be appointed member of the Hudson Arts, Recreation and Culture Committee as president of the Hudson Historical Society. En français.
5.2, nomination, Comité des arts et de la culture, considérant la résolution R 2019-03-72 par laquelle a été créé le Comité des arts et de la culture, considérant que les membres sont désignés par résolution du Conseil et que la volonté du Conseil est de les nommer pour un terme de 2 ans, considérant qu'il n'y a pas eu de nomination au comité depuis juin 2022, la résolution vise à nommer les membres suivants, qu'ils soient nommés au Comité des arts, récréation et culture d'Hudson pour une durée de 2 ans à compter de la date de la nomination. Geneviève Grenier, secteur patrimoine du bâtiment, Clint Ward, Linda Clouet-Mackay, Chris Gobey, Anil Prakash, Camillo Gentile, Kalina Skulska, Reed Thompson à titre de membre du Conseil et que Jamie Nichols soit nommé membre du Comité des arts, récréation et culture d'Hudson à titre de président de la Société historique d'Hudson.
Merci. So it was important to us that we have a representative of the Hudson Historical Society that have been key on many files, and their revival, I think, needs to be underscored. I believe that Chantal Perrault, who's here in the room, is now also vice president of the society, so well done. And I look forward to seeing the projects that you will be bringing. So I will need a mover for the nomination. Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously.
Je m'excuse, madame, peut-être parce que Reed Thompson est sur le comité, ce serait peut-être bien que ce soit.
Donc, Benoît Blais.
Merci.
You can't nominate yourself. All right. Anyway, so this is good news. Item 5.3, signing of the Declaration of Intention to Protect the Chimney Swift at the Community Center. So this is the presence of the chimney swift was notified to us by Nature Action, who was in the area. So we, as we are a bird-friendly town, we wanted to make sure that we were coherent in our gestures. So whereas the chimney swift is an endangered bird and has been designated a threatened species by the Quebec government, whereas it is possible for the town of Hudson to participate in the protection of the chimney swift's establishment at the community center by simple actions not requiring any expense, this resolution is that the Declaration of Intention to Protect the Chimney Swift at the Community Center be signed. Essentially, this is during the period of nesting of this bird and to make sure that we don't disrupt its nesting pattern. We also have a rouge-gorge robin, a red robin, nesting over the door at Halcrow Cottage. She likes to tell us that we should use the other door, so maybe we could do the same for her, even if she's not an endangered species, as far as I know. But anyway, en français.
5.3, signature de la déclaration d'intention pour la protection du martinet ramoneur au centre communautaire. Considérant que le martinet ramoneur est un oiseau en péril et a été désigné espèce menacée par le gouvernement du Québec, considérant qu'il est possible pour la Ville de Hudson de participer à la protection des martinets ramoneurs établis au centre communautaire par des actions simples qui ne requièrent aucune dépense, la présente résolution vise à ce que la déclaration d'intention pour la protection du martinet ramoneur au centre communautaire soit signée.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Doug Smith, seconder to my left. Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.4, tabling Town Clerk's certificate regarding the opposition procedures for Bylaw 766-2026. So in accordance with Section 557 of the Act respecting elections and referendums in municipalities, the Town Clerk is tabling the Town Clerk's certificate regarding to the opposition procedure. So I believe this is the bylaw where we changed the limits of the 6 electoral districts. And were there any opposition?
No opposition.
There were no opposition received. En français.
5.4, dépôt certificat du greffier relatif au déroulement de la procédure d'opposition pour le règlement 766-2024, conformément à l'article 557 de la loi sur les élections et les référendums dans les municipalités. La greffière procède au dépôt du certificat du greffier relatif à la procédure d'opposition et aucune signature n'a été reçue.
Merci. Section 6, Human Resources, Item 6.1, Service Offer. This is for pay equity, the creation of tools and development of a new pay structure. Whereas the town and the Union des employés de la Ville de Hudson are presently negotiating the renewal of the collective agreement. Whereas Resolution R 2021-04-97, Pay Equity 2020, mandated the firm Loranger Marcoux Avocat SENCRL to carry out pay equity maintenance for the town. This resolution is to appoint the firm Loranger Marcoux Avocat SENCRL to develop an evaluation and calculation tool and its impacts on salary equity at a cost of $20,150 before taxes. So essentially, this contract and externalizing this process means that it will be done in the most neutral and equitable manner so that there is no sense that there has been undue or unfair advantage given to anyone. En français.
Section 6, ressources humaines. 6.1, offre de services, équité salariale, création d'outils et aménagement de nouvelles structures salariales. Considérant que la Ville d'Hudson et l'Union des employés de la Ville d'Hudson sont présentement en négociation pour conclure le renouvellement de la convention collective, considérant la résolution R 2021-04-97, équité salariale 2020, a mandaté la firme Loranger Marcoux Avocat SENCRL pour effectuer le maintien de l'équité salariale pour la Ville. La résolution vise à mandater la firme Loranger Marcoux Avocat pour la réalisation des outils d'évaluation et de calcul, ainsi que ses impacts sur l'équité salariale à un coût de $20 150 avant taxes.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Yeah.
Just as a point of clarification, I may have missed this discussion. When was the last time the town might have done this?
We did it internally in 2020. It states so in the resolution, but we are looking to externalize it. Je ne sais pas la dernière fois qu'on l'aurait fait à l'externe, but probably, let's say maybe the PREVO administration, I would expect.
Je ne pourrais pas dire la dernière date. Puis là, en fait, on refait le processus, mais plus en profondeur aussi. Là. On revoit plus en profondeur les outils, les grilles salariales et tout. Là. Fait que on renouvelle le processus, mais on se dote d'outils encore plus performants. Là.
So the answer here was that this process will be even deeper, more in depth than might have been done in the past. We have done them internally using numbers that we have off of the OMQ, which is l'Union municipale du Québec, and other sort of measures asking neighboring towns as well what is their standard practice. But in this way, this will come and reinforce and serve as a tool for the collective agreement and will provide more in-depth analysis and justification with pay scales and such. Is that good? Je pense que c'est prévu pour la fin de l'été, peut-être?
Bien, c'est prévu, en fait, assez rapidement, justement, pour permettre la poursuite des négociations de la convention collective. Fait que c'est quelques mois.
So the question was, when do we expect to have the results? And so this process will be rather rapid because we need this for the next stage of the collective agreement negotiations. And so we expect that this will take place in the next couple of months.
Okay, I mean, typically when you give a mandate like this, it's deliverable.
Oh, yes, of course there will be.
But I'm just saying, what's the deliverable?
The date. There's a deadline.
There should be.
Yes.
Otherwise...
So the deadline is the negotiation.
En fait, ça dépend aussi de notre disponibilité à nous à l'interne, là, mais normalement, l'objectif, c'est autour du mois de juillet. S'il n'y a pas de délai pour les rencontres de travail, la préparation et tout, là, normalement, c'est juillet maximum ou, disons, de notre côté, là, en travail collaboratif avec eux.
So Marie-Jacinthe's answer was that the delay also, or the deadline also depends on the availability of our staff. But in theory, this should take place in July and at the latest be finalized by August. Good. Did we do the mover? Yes? Okay. Doug Smith, seconded by, thank you, Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.2, salary bonus. Whereas the position of treasurer has been vacant since January 24th of 2024. I see that there's something highlighted on the French side, so I'm going to read it on the English side. Whereas the Human Resources Coordinator is currently responsible for the continuity of the Finance Department's operations, which includes supervising employees, coordinating tasks, managing the cash flow calendar, monitoring emails and suppliers, managing several agreements and grants, etc. This resolution is to grant a salary bonus to the Human Resources Coordinator for the replacement of the treasurer position of 10% of her regular salary, and that this bonus be retroactive to January 24th of 2024, and that it be applicable until such time as a new finance director or significant interim finance director for at least 3 days a week is appointed, and that this bonus not be taken into account when paying overtime compensation at the end of 2024, if applicable, and that these hours be calculated on the person's regular salary.
6.2, bonification salariale. Considérant que le poste de trésorier est libre depuis le 24 janvier 2024, considérant que c'est la coordonnatrice des ressources humaines qui assume actuellement la continuité des opérations du département des finances, ce qui comprend notamment l'encadrement des employés, la coordination des tâches, la gestion du calendrier de trésorerie, le suivi des courriels et fournisseurs, la gestion de plusieurs ententes et subventions et plusieurs autres. Donc, la présente résolution vise à accorder une bonification salariale à la coordonnatrice des ressources humaines pour le remplacement du poste de trésorier de 10 % de son salaire régulier, que cette bonification soit rétroactive au 24 janvier 2024 et qu'elle soit applicable jusqu'à l'entrée en poste d'une personne assumant la direction des finances ou assumant l'intérim de façon significative pour au moins 3 jours semaine, et que cette bonification ne soit pas prise en compte lors du versement d'indemnités pour les excédents d'heures supplémentaires à la fin de l'année 2024, si applicable seulement, et que ces heures soient calculées sur son salaire régulier.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Yes? Is it an objection or a question?
It's actually an objection. It's based on the retroactivity, not on the moving forward.
Okay. So it is carried by majority.
À l'unanimité?
Majorité.
Okay.
Majorité. Item 6.3, awarding of contracts, recruitment services for Treasury. Whereas, as of January 24th of 2024, the position of Finance Director is vacant. Whereas the town wishes to fill this position to ensure the efficient operation of the town's financial department. This resolution is to appoint the firm Réseau d'Experts BRH for the recruitment of the Director of Finances Department at a cost of $15,000 before taxes, in accordance with the proposal received on April 24th. En français.
6.3, octroi de contrat, service de recrutement, trésorerie. Considérant que depuis le 24 janvier 2024, le poste de directeur des finances est dépourvu de son titulaire, considérant que la Ville désire pourvoir ce poste pour le bon fonctionnement du département des finances de la Ville, la présente résolution vise à mandater la firme Réseau d'experts BRH pour le recrutement du poste de directeur des finances à un coût de 15 000 $ avant taxe, le tout conformément à l'offre de service reçue le 24 avril 2024.
Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So perhaps as an update on this, there were 3 applicants, I believe, received in February. There was a very interesting candidature. Unfortunately, that person is only available this fall, so we would like to continue the search process and become more aggressive in our search, maybe even look for an interim person to bridge that period. But essentially, we have gone through our respective networks. Marie-Jacinthe has. We've been also looking to see with the MRC if we can piggyback on some of their candidacies that they received and see if there's anyone interested interested. It's very hard to fill this position in a small town, especially a small town that has our history of turnover in that particular department. It's going to take a very special person, but nonetheless, this means that our audited financial statements has taken some du retard, so some delay. We will be late in submitting these, and it shouldn't be a surprise to all that this is taking place. We are already starting the the bringing together of the documents and getting them ready to give to the auditor, but for sure we are taking some du retard, or some delay in this process, which will obviously make our job even harder when it comes to the budget period as well. So this is an unusual situation. I trust that Marie-Jacinthe and the person also that we just gave this bonus to have been doing a great job at ensuring that taxation has gone out, that corrections have been made when necessary. There's been questions coming in for a variety of situations that they have addressed, I think, with diligence and with acuity. But I ask again that, your tolerance and your understanding in this situation, and hopefully we will find un CPA qui ne sera pas à bas brun. This is Marie-Jacinthe's favorite expression, so we do not want a boring accountant. We want an accountant who can think outside the box and help us put in place sound management structure and processes that will also take into account the audit that we received of the CMQ and the fact that we have to prepare this action plan to which we commit for the next 3 years, and the CMQ will be reviewing again. So this is work that right now Marie-Jacinthe is doing on her own with the extra person internally, but it would be really great if we could find a specialist in the field. And so we may be raising I guess, our level of what we can afford in terms of an interim, just to fill that position rapidly and get things moving. So more to come next month, we hope. With regards to item 6.4, letters of agreement, this is pool changes in roles and responsibilities, modification of salary scale. So whereas the collective agreement between the town and the union on December 23rd of 2016 expired on October 27th of 2022, whereas modifications to certain positions require a letter of agreement, namely the student positions at the community pool, and an adjustment to the administrative assistant position in the Public Works Department, this resolution is to ratify letters of agreement number 18 and 19 entered into between the parties, and that these letters of agreement are made without any admission on the part of the parties and may not be used as a precedent.
6.4, lettre d'entente, piscine, modification dans les rôles et responsabilités et modification échelon salarial. Considérant que la convention collective entre la Ville et le syndicat, le 23 décembre 2016, est venue à échéance le 27 octobre 2022, considérant que des modifications à certains postes nécessitent une lettre d'entente, soit les postes étudiants de la piscine communautaire et un ajustement au poste d'adjointe administrative au service des travaux publics. Alors, la présente résolution vise à entériner les lettres d'entente numéro 18 et 19 intervenues entre les parties et que celles-ci soient faites sans admission quelconque de la part des parties et ne pourraient être utilisées à titre de précédent.
Merci. So this is part of the process of strengthening of the procedures around the pool staff and their responsibilities. So this is going to strengthen the level, the quality of service that is offered by the pool and ensured the accountability of those staff. Also, training comes associated with these responsibilities or the clarity, whether it is with regards to handling of chemicals or other situations. So this is really, I think, strengthening the handling of the pool and should generate better results this summer than we've had in the past. Is there a mover for this? Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.5, 2024 summer student hiring. Whereas the summer season is a busy season, whereas the resignation of one student This resolution is to authorize the hiring of the following community pool staff for the upcoming summer season. His name is Noah Nelson. You may remember that I believe it was last month that we adopted the resolution naming the 20 pool staff plus the 4 seasonal people from Public Works. So essentially one of those 20 dropped out, so this is replacing that person. En français?
6.5, embauche étudiant été 2024. Considérant que la saison estivale est une saison achalandée, considérant la démission d'un étudiant, la présente résolution vise à autoriser l'embauche personnelle de la piscine communautaire en prévision de la saison estivale, soit Noah Nelson.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. They're very discreet with their fingers. I want you to know I really have to pay attention to which hand moved first. Donc, on passe à la section 7, section 7, Culture and Recreation. Item 7.1, the 2024 Townwide Garage Sale. Considering that the town wishes to hold a mega garage sale on Saturday, June 8th and Sunday, June 9th of 2024, this resolution, should turn the page, is to authorize the holding of a mega garage sale on Saturday, June 8th and Sunday, June 9th of 2024, and to approve the donation of all funds raised by the issuance of permits to the Hudson chapter of Meals on Wheels.
Section 7, Culture et loisirs. 7.1, méga-vente de garage d'Hudson 2024. Considérant que la Ville souhaite organiser une méga-vente de garage le samedi 8 et dimanche 9 juin 2024, d'autoriser la tenue d'une méga-vente de garage le samedi 8 et le dimanche 9 juin 2024, d'approuver le don de tous les fonds recueillis par l'émission des permis à la popote roulante, section locale d'Hudson.
Merci. So I remind everyone a permit is required for having a garage sale on your front yard, and the proceedings or the collection of the amounts for the permits will be given back to Meals on Wheels. We do this every year. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Benoit Blais. Sorry. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 7.2, Jack Layton Park activity. This is the 2024 Illume Yoga Festival, whereas the Illume Yoga Festival will take place July 12th to 14th, 2024. This resolution is to authorize the use of Jack Layton Park by Illume Festival the weekend of July 12th to 14th of 2024, provided the park remains accessible to the public and that workshops are free and open to the public, and to permit the installation of a 20 by 20 foot Sperry tent from Friday, July 12th to Monday, July 15th of 2024.
7.2, activités dans le parc Jack Layton, Festival de yoga Illume 2024. Considérant que le Festival de yoga Illume aura lieu du 12 au 14 juillet 2024, la présente résolution vise à autoriser l'utilisation du parc Jack Layton par le Festival Illume du 12 au 14 juillet 2024, à condition que le parc demeure accessible au public et que les ateliers soient gratuits et ouverts au public, et de permettre l'installation d'une tente Sperry de 20 par 20 du vendredi 12 juillet au lundi 15 juillet 2024.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Peter Mate to my left. Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 7.3, Jack Layton Park activity 2024. This is for Shakespeare by the Lake. So whereas Shakespeare by the Lake will take place on July 18th to July 28th of 2024, this resolution is to authorize the use of Jack Layton Park for the Shakespeare by the Lake production on the date specified, provided the park remains accessible to the public and that the production is free and open to the public, and to authorize the use of Jack Layton Park as a rehearsal space one evening a week until July 18th's opening night. En français.
7.3, activité dans le parc Jack Layton, Shakespeare by the Lake 2024. Considérant que Shakespeare by the Lake aura lieu du 18 au 28 juillet 2024, la résolution vise à autoriser l'utilisation du parc Jack Layton pour la production Shakespeare by the Lake, aux dates mentionnées, à condition que le parc reste accessible au public et que la production soit gratuite et ouverte au public, et d'autoriser l'utilisation du parc Jack Layton comme lieu de répétition un soir par semaine jusqu'à la soirée d'ouverture du 18 juillet.
Merci. It will be a busy park during the month of July. To my right, do I have a mover? Doug Smith, and seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. You look very lonely to my left. Section 8, Public Works. Item 8.1, awarding of contract AO-2024-08-TP, management and operation of municipal water plants. Whereas the management and the operation of the potable water system and wastewater system is done by contract, in that the current contract expires at the end of October of this year, whereas the public call for tender AO-2024-08-TP was issued by the town on March 14th of 2024 and published on SEAO, whereas the bids received were opened publicly on April 18th of 2024, whereas, again, only one firm submitted a bid. This is the same firm that we've had in the past. Aquatech Société de Gestion de l'Eau, Inc., for the amount of $709,999.80. I believe this amount is for 3 years. Considering the... 5 years. It's even better. For some reason, I thought it was 3. Considering the compliance analysis carried out, this resolution is to authorize the holding of a mega garage sale on Saturday. Wow. For $710,000. Merci. So this resolution, excuse me, is to award to Aquatech Société de Gestion de l'Eau, Inc., the only lowest conforming bidder, the contract for management and operation of municipal water plants for a total amount of, and here it is, $709,999.80 before taxes for the first 5 years. I don't know why we say the first 5 years. Is there an option to renew?
3 years.
Okay, there's an option to renew for 3 years, so you did your homework. I did not read the full amount on this. Thank you. En français.
8.1, section 8, travaux publics. 8.1, octroi de contrat à O2024-08-TP, gestion et exploitation des usines d'eau municipales. Considérant que la gestion et l'exploitation du système d'eau potable et du système d'égout se fait par contrat et que le contrat actuel expire à la fin du mois d'octobre de cette année. Considérant l'appel d'offres public AO 2024-08-TP a été lancé par la Ville le 14 mars 2024 et publié sur SEAO. Considérant que les soumissions reçues ont été ouvertes publiquement le 18 avril 2024. Considérant qu'une seule entreprise a soumis une offre, soit Aquatech Société de gestion de l'eau incorporée, pour un montant avant taxe de 709 999,80 sous. Considérant l'analyse de conformité de la soumission, la présente résolution vise à octroyer à Aquatech Société de gestion de l'eau incorporée, le seul et plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de gestion et exploitation des usines d'eau municipales pour un montant total de 709 999,80 sous avant taxe pour les 5 premières années.
Avec option de renouvellement de 3 ans. Doug, did you want to move this one? Do I have a mover to my right? Benoit Blais, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Did you want to speak to the objection?
I'm defaulting to my belief that single bids, I don't understand why we can't get more than single bids.
I think it's a highly specialized area, but yes, we have heard you. Yeah. All right, so it is carried by majority. Item 8.2, awarding of contract for the study of Alston Vale Road. Considering the state of the Alston Vale Road, and this is really the bend leading from Main Road and the train tracks up to Alstonvale, so that bend. This resolution is to award to CLERK Groupe Conseil for $17,750 before taxes for professional engineering services for Alstonvale Road. We expect that there will be reinforcement and shoring work that will be required before we can repave, and so this essentially is to begin that process. En français.
8.2, octroi de contrat études rue Alstonvale. Considérant l'état de rue Alstonvale, la présente résolution vise à octroyer le contrat à CLERK Groupe Conseil pour 17 750 $ avant taxe pour les services professionnels d'ingénierie pour la rue Alstonvale.
Is there a mover to my right? Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? So these are on invitation, right? They're not so much for public tender, which is why we usually go with our regulars that offer us rapid service and quality service.
Donc, à l'unanimité?
Are there any objections? There are none. It is carried unanimously.
Merci.
Section 9, Public Safety, Item 9.1, Renewal of Training Manager Agreement with the ENVIRONNEMENT. Considering that the Hudson Fire Department has a training manager agreement with the École nationale des pompiers du Québec, ENVIRONNEMENT, renewable annually to provide training recognized under Section 52 of the Fire Safety Act. This resolution is to authorize the signing of the training management agreement for the period of July 1st of 2024 to June 30th of 2025. This is essentially a resolution that we renew every year for this service. En français.
Section 9, Sécurité publique. 9.1, reconduction de l'entente de gestionnaire de formation avec le NPQ. Considérant que le service des incendies de Hudson a conclu une entente de gestionnaire de formation avec l'École nationale des pompiers du Québec, ENPQ, renouvelable annuellement pour donner la formation reconnue en vertu de l'article 52 de la Loi sur la sécurité publique. La résolution vise à autoriser la signature pour le renouvellement de l'entente de gestionnaire de formation pour la période allant du 1er juillet 2024 au 30 juin 2025.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Peter Mate, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 10, Bylaws. Item 10.1, Bylaw 767-2024, amending Zoning Bylaw 526, Subdivision Bylaw 527, Permits and Certificates Bylaw 529, Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program SPAPE by Bylaw 571. This is for adoption of that bylaw. Whereas a notice of motion and adoption of draft of this bylaw was given at the regular sitting of the Municipal Council held on January 10th of 2024, whereas the proposed bylaw tabled on January 10th of 2024, en anglais c'est écrit 2023, was amended as follows. So these are the amendments that were carried since the version that you all saw. So Section 1 was amended as follows. By removing the definition of tree, by removing the definition of building footprint, by modifying the definition intensification of existing activities reads as follows. Any construction project with the aim of adding 2 or more residential units in a building. By adding the definition, Ministry of Environment, reading as follows, refers to the ministry responsible for the application of the Environment Quality Act RLRQ CQ-2, in particular, regardless of the full name assigned to the ministry. By removing the definition, new activity. By modifying the definition, redevelopment project, any construction project aiming to establish a new main building on a vacant lot or to replace an existing main building with another building. By removing the definition, site. A section was added following Section 3 of the zoning bylaw after Section 534, namely Section J, transfer for the purposes of parks, playgrounds, or natural spaces, containing Section 535, obligation of transfer of payment of an amount for the purpose of parks, playgrounds, and natural areas, 536, prerequisite for the issuance of a construction permit, 537, specific conditions prior to issuing a construction permit, 538, specific obligations for the transfer of land for parks, playgrounds, or natural areas, 539, transfer of land for parks, playgrounds, or natural areas off-site. 540, value of the site subject to a construction permit. 541, contestation of the value established by an evaluator. And 542, credit to the owner. Section 4 was amended by adding a second paragraph to Section 700.2, width of the shoreline of a vacant lot, reading as follows. Notwithstanding the first paragraph, the width of the shore may be reduced under the following conditions. A, the establishment of a main building respecting the minimum installment area required in the zoning grid is impossible due to the shore. B, the slope of the shore is continuous and less than 30% of the slope of the shore, or the slope of the shore is greater than 30% but has an embankment less than 5 meters high. Section 5 was amended as follows. The removal in the first paragraph of Section 725(1), interventions in a wetland, of the terms harvesting, hunting, or trapping, as well as, and their protection strip. The removal of the second paragraph of Section 725.1, interventions in a wetland. The removal in the third paragraph of Section 725.1, interventions in a wetland in the term and second. The removal in subparagraph A of the third paragraph of Section 725.1, interventions in a wetland of the term commercial. The replacement in subparagraphs A and B of the third paragraph of Section 725.1, interventions in a wetland of the term Ministère de l'Environnement et de la lutte au changement climatique by Ministry of Environment. The modifications of paragraph A of the third paragraph of Section 725.1, intervention in a wetland by adding at the end, or if there are subjects to a declaration of conformity or exempted from the application of the Environment Quality Act under a provincial bylaw. The replacement in subparagraph B of the third paragraph of Section 725.1, intervention in a wetland of the term. This bylaw coming into force by Bylaw 750-2022, establishing a moratorium on certain planning operations coming into force, for example, March 2nd of 2022. Section 5 was amended by adding a second paragraph to Section 726.1, shoreline of a wetland, reading as follows. Notwithstanding the first paragraph, the width of the shore may be reduced under the following conditions. A, the establishment of a main building respecting the minimum installation area required in the zoning grid is impossible due to the shore. B, the slope of the shore is continuous and less than 30%, or the slope of the shore is greater than 30%, but has an embankment less than 5 meters high. Section 6 was amended as follows, by removing in subparagraph B in the first paragraph of Section 714.2, reasons for tree felling of subparagraph I. By adding in the second paragraph of Section 714.3, felling of a remarkable tree, the term mandated by the town at its expense after arboriculture. By replacing in the subparagraph III or subparagraph of Section 714.5, works requiring tree felling by the distances of 1 meter by meter and 3 by 4. Section 7 was amended to revise the amount of the fines of Section 205, recourse to courts and penalties, in order to comply with the new provincial regulations. Section 10 was amended by removing, at Section 401, obligation to transfer or payment of an amount for the purpose of parks, playgrounds, and natural areas, subparagraph 2 to 5. Section 11 was amended as follows, by removing at Section 401.1 prerequisite for the issuance of a subdivision permit by removing or construction. By removing Section 401.3 specific conditions prior to issuing a subdivision or construction permit. And by renumbering the sections taken into account the addition of the new sections. This resolution is to adopt Bylaw 767-2024, amending Zoning Bylaw 526, Subdivision Bylaw 527, Permits and Certificates Bylaw 529, Site Planning and Architectural Integration Programs, SPAPE Bylaw 571. En français.
Section règlement 10.1. Adoption règlement 767-2024 visant à modifier les règlements de zonage numéro 526, de lotissement numéro 526-27, sur les permis certificats numéro 529, sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale numéro 571. Considérant qu'un avis de motion et d'adoption du projet du présent règlement ont été donnés à la séance ordinaire du Conseil municipal tenue le 10 janvier 2024. Considérant que le projet de règlement déposé le 10 janvier 2024 s'est vu modifié de la façon suivante. L'article 1 a été modifié de façon suivante, par le retrait de la définition arbre, par le retrait de la définition assiette de l'immeuble, par la modification de la définition intensification des activités existantes se lisant comme suit. Tout projet de construction ayant pour objet d'ajouter 2 logements ou plus dans un bâtiment. Par l'ajout de la définition ministère de l'Environnement se lisant comme suit, désigne le ministère responsable de l'application de la loi sur la qualité de l'environnement, notamment, peu importe l'appellation complète attribuée au ministère. Par le retrait de la définition nouvelle activité. Par la modification de la définition de projet de redéveloppement se lisant comme suit, tout projet de construction visant à implanter un nouveau bâtiment principal sur un terrain vacant ou à remplacer un bâtiment principal existant par un autre bâtiment principal. Par le retrait de la définition site. Un article a été ajouté à la suite de l'article 3, ajoutant une nouvelle section au règlement de zonage après l'article 534, soit la section J, cession pour fin de parc, terrain de jeu ou d'espace naturel, et comprenant les articles 535, obligation de cession de terrain ou de versement d'une somme d'argent pour fin de parc, terrain de jeu ou espace naturel, 536, conditions préalables à la délivrance d'un permis de construction, 537, conditions particulières préalables à la délivrance d'un permis de construction. 538, obligations spécifiques à la cession d'un terrain pour fin de parc, terrain de jeu ou espace naturel. 539, cession d'un terrain pour fin de parc, terrain de jeu ou espace naturel hors site. 540, valeur du site faisant l'objet d'un permis de construction. 541, contestation de la valeur établie par un évaluateur. Et 542, crédit au propriétaire. L'article 4 a été modifié afin d'ajouter un deuxième alinéa à l'article 700.2, largeur de la rive d'un lot vacant, se lisant ainsi. Nonobstant le premier alinéa, la largeur de la rive peut être réduite jusqu'à 10 mètres aux conditions suivantes. A. L'implantation d'un bâtiment principal respectant la superficie minimale d'implantation exigée à la grille de zonage est impossible en raison de la rive. B. La pente de la rive est continue et inférieure à 30 % ou la pente de la rive est supérieure à 30 % mais présente un talus inférieur à 5 mètres de hauteur. L'article 5 a été modifié de façon suivante. Le retrait au premier alinéa de l'article 725.1, intervention dans un milieu humide, des termes et de leur rive, ainsi qu'y cueillir, chasser, faire du piégeage. Le retrait du deuxième alinéa de l'article 725.1, intervention dans un milieu humide. Le retrait au troisième alinéa de l'article 725.1, intervention dans un milieu humide, du terme et deuxième. Le retrait au paragraphe A du troisième alinéa de l'article 725.1, intervention dans un milieu humide, du terme commercial. Le retrait au paragraphe A et B du troisième alinéa de l'article 725.1, intervention dans un milieu humide, du terme et de la lutte contre les changements climatiques. La modification du paragraphe A du troisième alinéa de l'article 725.1, intervention dans un milieu humide. par l'ajout à la fin de « ou s'ils sont soumis à une déclaration de conformité ou exemptés de l'application de la loi sur la qualité de l'environnement en vertu d'un règlement provincial ». L'ajout au paragraphe B du troisième alinéa de l'article 725.1, intervention dans un milieu humide du terme 750-2022, instaurant un moratoire sur certaines opérations d'urbanisme, soit le 2 mars 2022, après la date d'entrée en vigueur du règlement. L'article 5 a été modifié afin d'ajouter un deuxième alinéa à l'article 726.1. Rive d'un milieu humide se lisant ainsi. Nonobstant le premier alinéa, la largeur de la rive peut être réduite jusqu'à 10 mètres aux conditions suivantes. L'implantation d'un bâtiment principal respectant la superficie minimale d'implantation exigée à la grille de zonage est impossible en raison de la rive. B. La pente de la rive est continue et inférieure à 30 ou la pente de la rive est supérieure à 30 mais présente un talus inférieur à 5 mètres de hauteur. L'article 6 a été modifié de façon suivante. Par le retrait au paragraphe G du premier alinéa 714.2, je pense que c'est B.
Oui, B, on l'a en...
Par le retrait au paragraphe B du premier alinéa de l'article 714.2, motif d'abattage d'un arbre du sous-paragraphe I. Alors, c'est G. Par l'ajout au deuxième alinéa de l'article 714.3, abattage d'un arbre remarquable, mandaté par la Ville aux frais de cette dernière après section Québec. Par le remplacement au sous-paragraphe 3I du paragraphe C de l'article 714.4, travaux nécessitant l'abattage d'arbres, des distances de 1 mètre par 2 mètres et 3 par 4. L'article 7 a été modifié afin de réviser les amendes à l'article 205, recours aux tribunaux et pénalités, dans le but de se conformer à la nouvelle réglementation provinciale. L'article 10 a été modifié par le retrait à l'article 401, obligation de cession de terrain ou de versement d'une somme d'argent pour fin de parc, terrain de jeu ou espace naturel, des paragraphes 2 à 5. L'article 11 a été modifié de façon suivante. Par le retrait à l'article 401.1, conditions préalables à la délivrance d'un permis de lotissement par le terme ou de construction, là où il apparaît. Par le retrait de l'article 401.3, conditions particulières préalables à la délivrance d'un permis de lotissement ou de construction. Et finalement, par la renumérotation des articles en tenant compte de l'ajout des nouveaux articles. Alors, la présente résolution vise à adopter le règlement 767-2024 visant à modifier les règlements de zonage numéro 526, de lotissement numéro 527, sur les permis et certificats numéro 529, sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale numéro 571.
Merci. So this is essentially the text changes that have been brought to that bylaw that was adopted, or the draft bylaw adopted in January. This is the table that was also made available online that gives the table of the major changes to the bylaws following the public consultation, essentially recapitulates everything that we have just read through this resolution. Also, I do invite you to take a look at the recording and the presentation that is available on the town's website with regards to each and every one of the changes that was made. I have here that we made approximately changes to about 20 of the elements in response to the feedback that we received. So I know it looks like a lot of sort of finesse, but essentially I would expect that most people who are in this room have looked at the table of major changes or have looked at the consultation material that is online. I won't go through all of these again tonight since we've already done a public presentation on this. If you'd like to come up either after the meeting, I can certainly run through these with you or give you the table or copy of the table if you haven't seen it yet. Also remember that there is Coffee with the Mayor on Saturday. You're welcome to come and grill me. I'm happy to do so and to run through those with you. And as I'd mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I have committed to working and meeting with a group of commercial owners. I see that there's 2 of those people in the room this evening. And if there's anything else that needs to be refined that we may have overlooked or not understood adequately, we will certainly reopen the bylaw and go through that refinement if necessary. At this point, we're confident that these changes do not have an impact, a direct impact on commercial operations, but I understand that there's still concern with regards to the impact that this may have on the redevelopment of the commercial core in certain key properties. And that is something that I want to hear more about. And so my door is open to this sense. So here we are. Do I have a mover, Benoit Blais, and do I have a seconder, Reed Thompson? Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 10.2, Bylaw 768-2024 on the Comprehensive Development Programs. This is for adoption. Whereas a notice of motion and adoption of draft of this bylaw was given at the regular sitting of the Municipal Council held on January 10th of 2024. Whereas the proposed bylaw tabled on January 20th of 2024, en anglais c'est écrit 2023, mais on va le mettre à 2024, was amended as follows. Section 13, named Required Documents and Plans, was amended as follows. By replacing in subparagraph A of subparagraph 5 the term astronomical north by true north, by adding in subparagraph R of subparagraph 5 the term current and proposed before topography, by adding subparagraphs D to F following subparagraph C of subparagraph 6, where D is the number of interior and exterior parking spaces, E, the surface area of permeable and impermeable surfaces and their ratio to the total land area, F, the surface area of green spaces and their ratio to the total land area. Section 23, named General Objective, was amended as follows. By replacing in the first paragraph the term heavily wooded area by area of environmental interest. By modifying the last sentence of the second paragraph, reading as follows. The preferred development within the Comprehensive Development Program follows a mode of development in single-family residences representing a natural extension of the neighboring pattern. By replacing in the third paragraph the term service or facilities by services, facilities, and infrastructures. Section 24, named Additional Required Documents and Plans, is modified only in the English version as follows. By replacing in subparagraph 2 the term any by all, by adding in subparagraph 2 the term building before height, by replacing in subparagraph 3 the term accommodation by residential. Section 25, named Criteria for the Protection and Enhancement of the Natural Environment, was amended as follows. By replacing only in the English version in subparagraph 4 the term plot by lot, by replacing only in the English version in the subparagraph 5 of the term riparian strips by shore, by modifying subparagraph 6 reading as follows. The electrical distribution network is planned to optimize forest cover conservation, for example, by favoring an underground network. Section 26, named Criteria for Subdivision, Traffic, and Site Access, was amended as follows. By adding at the end of subparagraph 1 the following, avoiding dead-end streets and respecting the existing topography. By replacing at subparagraph 8 the term site by site's natural conditions. Section 27, named Criteria for Parks and Green Spaces, were amended only in the English version as follows. By replacing at subparagraph 2 the term by landscaping and equipment. By adding at subparagraph the term, at the second subparagraph, the term park before furnitures. Section 28, named Criteria for the Built Environment, was amended as follows. by modifying subparagraph 2, reading as follows. The proposed architecture highlights the visual qualities of the town and promoted a brand image compatible with that which is identifiable in neighboring areas. Section 29 named criteria for landscape and site development as follows. By replacing only in the English version of subparagraph 2 the term strip by buffer. By removing only in the English version of subparagraph 3 the term strip. By removing only in the English version of subparagraph 3 the term development by landscaping. By replacing in subparagraph 4 the term excessive deforestation, by which minimizes deforestation. When deforestation is required, replanting measures are proposed. Thank you, Doug. Section 31, named applicable uses and densities, was amended as follows. By removing in the third paragraph the term submitted after project and the term more before compact. Section 32, named general objective, was amended as follows. By replacing in the first paragraph the term Hudson train station served by the suburban train. Section 35, named criteria for the protection and enhancement of the natural environment, was amended as follows. By adding subparagraph 4, reading as follows. The location of the wooded cover preserved in the project contributes to the creation of continuous ecological corridors. By adding subparagraph 5, reading as follows. The project proposed preservation measures for the protection of water courses, in particular by promoting slower percolation of water. Section 36, named criteria for the built environment, was amended as follows. By adding subparagraph 3, reading as follows. The orientation of buildings favors sunshine and the use of energy from solar radiation. Section 37, named criteria for landscape and site development, was amended only in the English version as follows. By removing in subparagraph 2, the term strip at the 2 occasions it appears. Section 38, named criteria for recreational networks, was amended as follows. By removing in subparagraph 1 the term if any. This resolution is to adopt bylaw 768-2024 on comprehensive development programs. En français.
Point 10.2, adoption règlement 768-2024 sur les plans d'aménagement d'ensemble. En considérant qu'un avis de motion et adoption du projet du présent règlement ont été donnés à la séance ordinaire du Conseil municipal tenue le 10 janvier 2024, considérant que le projet de règlement déposé le 10 janvier 2024 s'est vu modifié de la façon suivante. L'article 13 intitulé « Documents et plans requis » est modifié des façons suivantes. Par le remplacement au sous-paragraphe A du 5e paragraphe du terme « nord astronomique » par la direction du vrai nord. Par l'ajout au sous-paragraphe R du 5e paragraphe des termes « actuels et projetés » après la topographie. Par l'ajout des sous-paragraphes D à F suivants après le sous-paragraphe C du 6e paragraphe. D. Le nombre d'espaces de stationnement intérieur et extérieur. E. La superficie des espaces perméables et imperméables et leur rapport avec la superficie totale du site. F. La superficie des espaces verts et leur rapport avec la superficie totale du site. L'article 23, intitulé « Objectif général » est modifié des façons suivantes. Par le remplacement dans le premier alinéa des termes d'un secteur fortement boisé par d'un secteur d'intérêt environnemental. Par la modification de la dernière phrase du deuxième alinéa se lisant comme suit, le développement privilégié qui s'inscrit à l'intérieur du plan d'aménagement d'ensemble s'effectue suivant un développement en résidence unifamiliale, soit un prolongement naturel de la trame avoisinante. Par le remplacement au troisième alinéa des termes services ou équipements par services, équipements et infrastructures. L'article 24, intitulé « Documents et plans additionnels requis » est modifié dans la version anglaise seulement des façons suivantes. Par le remplacement au deuxième paragraphe du terme « any » par « all », par l'ajout au deuxième paragraphe du terme « building » devant « height », par le remplacement au troisième paragraphe du terme « accommodation » par « residential ». L'article 25, intitulé « Critères relatifs à la protection et la mise en valeur du milieu naturel » est modifié des façons suivantes. Par le remplacement au quatrième paragraphe de la version anglaise seulement du terme « plot » par « lot », par le remplacement au cinquième paragraphe du terme « bande riveraine » par « rive », par la modification du 6e paragraphe se lisant comme suit. Le réseau de distribution électrique est planifié en fonction de la conservation optimale du couvert forestier, par exemple en favorisant un réseau souterrain. L'article 26, intitulé « Critères relatifs au lotissement et à la circulation et l'accès du site » est modifié des façons suivantes. Par l'ajout, à la fin du paragraphe 1, des termes suivants, évitant des cul-de-sac et respectant la topographie existante. Par le remplacement au paragraphe 8 des termes « au site » par « aux conditions naturelles du site ». L'article 27, intitulé « Critères relatifs aux parcs et espaces verts » est modifié dans la version anglaise seulement des façons suivantes. Par le remplacement au deuxième paragraphe du terme « facilities » par « landscaping and equipment », par l'ajout au deuxième paragraphe du terme « park » devant « furnitures ». L'article 28, intitulé « Critères relatifs au cadre bâti » est modifié de la façon suivante. Par la modification du deuxième paragraphe se lisant comme suit, l'architecture proposée met en valeur les qualités visuelles de la ville et valorise une image de marque compatible avec celle qu'on peut identifier dans les secteurs avoisinants. L'article 29, intitulé « Critères relatifs au paysage et à l'aménagement du terrain » est modifié des façons suivantes. Par le remplacement dans la version anglaise seulement au deuxième paragraphe du terme « strip » par « buffer », par le retrait dans la version anglaise seulement au troisième paragraphe du terme « strip », par le remplacement dans la version anglaise seulement au troisième paragraphe du terme « development » par « landscaping », par le remplacement au quatrième paragraphe du terme « déboisement excessif » par « qui minimise le déboisement ». Lorsqu'un déboisement est requis, des mesures de reboisement sont proposées. L'article 31, intitulé « Usage et densité applicables » est modifié de la façon suivante. Par le retrait au troisième alinéa du terme « soumis après projet » et du terme « plus avant compact ». L'article 32, intitulé « Objectif général » est modifié de la façon suivante. Par le retrait au premier alinéa du terme de la gare Hudson qui est desservie par le train de banlieue par du réseau de transport en commun. L'article 35, intitulé « Critères relatifs à la protection et la mise en valeur du milieu naturel » est modifié de la façon suivante. Par l'ajout du quatrième paragraphe se lisant comme suit. La localisation du couvert boisé préservé dans le projet contribue à la création des corridors écologiques continus. Par l'ajout du cinquième paragraphe se lisant comme suit. Le projet propose des mesures de préservation pour la protection de la ressource en eau, notamment en favorisant une percolation des eaux pluviales. L'article 36, intitulé « Critères relatifs au cadre bâti » est modifié de la façon suivante. Par l'ajout du troisième paragraphe se lisant comme suit, l'orientation des bâtiments favorise l'ensoleillement et l'utilisation de rapports énergétiques du rayonnement solaire. L'article 37, intitulé « Critères relatifs au paysage et à l'aménagement du terrain » est modifié dans la version anglaise seulement de la façon suivante. Par le retrait dans le deuxième paragraphe du terme « strip » aux deux endroits où il apparaît, l'article 38, intitulé « Critères relatifs au réseau récréatif » est modifié de la façon suivante, par le retrait au premier paragraphe du terme « le cas échéant ». La présente résolution vise à adopter le règlement 768-2024 sur les plans d'aménagement d'ensemble.
Merci, Mme McKercher. Sur la page 115, la traduction du réseau de transport en commun n'est pas la même en anglais. Donc, si on pourrait faire la modification. Served by public transportation network.
Dans le 3, 4e?
En fait, c'est que les deux articles sont pas identiques. C'est ça? On va valider.
Question de cohérence.
Oui, c'est...
Merci.
En fait, on se rabat sur le transport en commun.
Oui, réseau de transport en commun. So essentially, these, as you can tell, a lot of these are precisions that were brought to the English language where most of the work happened in French, and there was room for improvement and adding greater clarity on the English side. So a lot of that is that. We've also taken the opportunity to heighten some of the environmental criteria that pertain to development. The point here is that these integrated programs are mostly, or all of them, are going to be in areas of natural interest. So it's not just integrated program in any urban environment. It's really we want it to take into consideration that it is occurring in a natural area and that as much as possible natural topography needs to be kept and that it's not an area where you start from a blank page, but an area where you need to be cognizant cognizant of not only the adjacent neighborhoods and the frame or the density and the network that is there, but also look to integrate and to transition gently into that area. So these are where those changes came from. We received some very useful comments from both Jim Duff and also Kevin Solaric and I believe David Calant. So thank you for your input. And otherwise, I'd like to thank Melissa Francis for her arduous work and patience as we went through each and every word and phrase with her. I think this new bylaw that is looking to frame future developments in our areas of natural interest, I think will bring desirable results and give us a better chance to bring quality projects to Hudson. On this, do I have a mover? So Benoit Blais again, and seconded by Peter Mate. Thank you. Are there any objections to this bylaw or this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 10.3, before I lose my voice and Reid may have to continue for me. So bylaw number, well, actually, do you want to read? Because I am losing my voice.
Sure. Bylaw number 766-2024 concerning the division of the town into 6 electoral districts. This is for the adoption of the bylaw. Whereas notice of motion and adoption of this project, of this bylaw was given at the regular sitting of the Municipal Council held on April 2nd, 2024. Whereas there have been no changes to the proposed bylaw tabled on March 24th, 2024. Whereas the purpose of this bylaw is to proceed with the division of the territory in order to meet the requirements of Article 12 of the Act respecting elections and referendums in municipalities, LRQ-CE 2.2. This resolution is to adopt bylaw number 766-2024 concerning the division of the town into 6 electoral districts. En français.
10.3, adoption règlement numéro 766-2024 concernant la division de la ville en 6 districts électoraux. Considérant qu'un avis de motion et adoption du projet du présent règlement a été donné à la séance ordinaire du Conseil municipal tenue le 2 avril 2024, considérant que le présent règlement ne comporte aucune modification au projet déposé le 4 mars 2024, considérant que l'objet de ce règlement est de procéder à la division du territoire de la ville en 6 districts électoraux, de manière à rencontrer les exigences de l'article 12 de la loi sur les élections et les référendums dans les municipalités. La présente résolution vise à adopter le règlement numéro 766-2024 concernant la division de la ville en 6 districts électoraux.
Merci. Do I have a mover for this resolution? Peter Mate, seconded by Reid Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 10.4.
Item 10.4, application, authorization, and issuance of tickets, designation update. Whereas it is vital for good management to periodically review the designated persons having the jurisdiction to issue violation tickets, notably to reflect changes in the organization of the town. This resolution is to appoint the persons designated in Appendix A attached hereto as designated officers having jurisdiction for the enforcement of the bylaws listed below, as well as their amendments, therefore enabling them to issue statements of offense.
En français.
10.4, autorisation d'application et d'émission de constats, mise à jour des désignations. Alors, considérant qu'une saine administration exige la révision périodique des personnes désignées aux fins de la délivrance des constats d'infraction, notamment afin de tenir compte des changements dans l'organisation de la Ville, la présente résolution vise à nommer les personnes désignées à l'annexe A jointe au présent à titre d'officiers désignés pour l'application des règlements municipaux énumérés ci-dessous, de même que tous leurs amendements et ainsi leur permettre d'émettre des constats d'infraction.
Do I have a mover for this resolution? To my right, Peter Mate. To my left, Reid Thompson. Are there any objections?
Peter Mate?
Peter Mate. And Reid Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. Just to, I've mentioned this in the past, but the annex is about 5 pages legal size. It is comprehensive. and it names all of the titles per bylaw who can actually apply these bylaws. So we will save our voices and not read through the annex, but in a couple of months when it is posted on the website, if you're interested, please take a look. Had we done the adoption? C'était unanime? Oui. Okay. Moving to 10.5, I believe.
Bylaw number 769-2024, describing the rules for closing a ditch. This is for the adoption of the bylaw. Whereas notice of motion and adoption of the project of this bylaw was given at the regular sitting of the Municipal Council held on April 2nd, 2024. Whereas there have been no changes to the proposed bylaw tabled on March 4th, 2024. Whereas the purpose of this bylaw is to provide for the conditions of occupation of part of the public domain, more specifically by the closure of a ditch forming part of the right-of-way of a public road on land which belongs to the municipality. This bylaw is to adopt, this resolution is to adopt bylaw number 769-2024, describing the rules for closing a ditch.
10.5, adoption, règlement numéro 769-2024, décrivant les règles de fermeture d'un fossé. Considérant qu'un avis de motion et adoption du projet du présent règlement a été donné à la séance ordinaire du Conseil municipal tenue le 2 avril 2024, considérant que le présent règlement ne comporte aucune modification au projet déposé le 4 mars 2024, considérant que l'objet de ce règlement est de prévoir les conditions d'occupation d'une partie du domaine public, plus précisément par la fermeture d'un fossé faisant partie de l'emprise d'une voie publique sur un fonds qui appartient à la municipalité. La présente résolution vise à adopter le règlement numéro 769-2024 décrivant les règles de fermeture d'un fossé.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this bylaw? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Essentially, this bylaw now stipulates clear requirements, and a permit will be required if anybody were to fill the ditches. There are several situations, especially since the change in the law, where one would require ministerial approval, so Environment Ministry approval to backfill and close a ditch. So this is to ensure that rules are followed and that the town is not left with a situation that then we have to go and correct afterwards. So please do read the bylaw and familiarize yourself with it. And if you have any questions, I'm sure the town will be able to answer. Item 10.6, bylaw. Go ahead.
Bylaw number 743.4-2024, amending bylaw 743-2021 regarding parking, RMH 330-2021, notice of motion and tabling of the draft. So a councillor will be giving notice of motion that he would move to or cause to be moved, I don't think I read that right, that he would move or cause to be moved the adoption of the draft bylaw number 743-2021 regarding parking, RMH 330-2021, whereas the purpose of this bylaw is to intensify its efforts to temporarily prohibit access to Sandy Beach.
So we will need a councillor to give notice. So Peter Mate gives notice of motion.
Donc 10.6, avis de motion et dépôt du projet, règlement numéro 743.4-2024 visant à modifier le règlement 743-2021 relatif au stationnement RMH-330-2021. Le conseiller Peter Mate donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement numéro 743.4-2024 visant à modifier le règlement 743-2021 relatif au stationnement RMH-330-2021.
Merci. So a copy of this bylaw is available on, or the draft bylaw is available online. As a reminder, in a week, so next Monday, we expect to have a special meeting to adopt the final version of this bylaw. This is to make sure that it is in place by the time the long weekend comes along and the community patrol begin their rounds. Also, this is to signal that we are taking away the parking rights along Royal View in order to not encourage people who might be thinking that because there's parking there, that therefore by natural, whatever, continuance that they could then continue to the beach. So this will bring people back to Jack Layton and to areas that are presently and permanently accessible to the public and look to control that more efficiently. So it's dans un souci de cohérence, so in a desire to be coherent with the gesture of closing the beach. Item 10.7.
Bylaw number 770-2024, Sandy Beach Use Bylaw. This is a notice of motion and tabling of the draft as well. A councillor will give notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved the adoption of the draft bylaw number 770-2024, Sandy Beach Use Bylaw, whereas the purpose of this bylaw is to govern permitted uses at Sandy Beach Nature Park and Sandy Beach.
Thank you en français. Donc, so I need a councillor to give notice. So Peter Maid again gives notice of motion.
10.7, avis de motion et dépôt du projet de règlement numéro 770-2024, règlement sur l'utilisation de la plage Sandy Beach. Le conseiller Peter Maid donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement numéro 770-2024, règlement sur l'utilisation de la plage Sandy Beach, considérant que l'objet de ce règlement est de régir les utilisations permissibles au parc nature Sandy Beach et à la plage Sandy Beach.
Merci. So as mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this is transcribing our obligations and responsibilities that are in the servitude with regards to the beach and where we will be closing or have closed the beach to public. This is really in order to respect the private owners' ask that there be no longer any trespassing on their private property, and this will give us the time to put in place a permanent solution with a direct connection to the public land that we own. So I know this is not ideal, but this is the best and the best way for us to move forward, and again to look to continue to collaborate and to develop positive and constructive relations with the owner of this property, who have been extremely gracious in allowing the public to continue to use the paths for so many years, and hopefully we will be able to continue for several decades to come. So moving to the second question period, is there section 11, any new business, anyone? No, there is no new business. So second question period, there are 15, 16 people online. There's a hand up already, and so I will alternate between the room and online. The first hand up is Jim Duff, so please go ahead.
It's your turn, Jim Duff.
Yes, sorry, I was muted. Good evening. I have questions about two of the bylaw resolutions. Bylaw Resolution 767. One of the things that was presented at the April the 24th information meeting was that you were going to redefine the urban core in such a way that I believe lots on Shepherd, on Hudson, lots that were not touched in 768 were actually are going to be affected by that. And I wanted to know why that was not part of the bylaw. So the map of, I'm trying to get the numbers right, of 767 has been modified for that provision. So yes, indeed, we are modifying what was defined as the central core, which had originally been the urban perimeter. We have now redefined it to the areas that are touched by the comprehensive development plan. So that map has been changed. Madame McCurtry, est-ce qu'on devrait faire mention dans notre résolution qu'on vient modifier la carte? Parce que c'est elle, en fait, qui change.
Dans l'annexe, elle est en annexe, la carte.
Oui. Parce qu'en effet, on n'en a pas fait mention dans notre résolution.
Ça, c'est le règlement.
767.
But yes, Jim, that is the intent, and that's what has been done. And I believe that if you look at the bylaws, that has been redefined.
Okay, so I was unable to attend this evening, so it may have been part of the annex, yes?
It should be the map that is in annex that defines that central core as those 6 areas for potential of development. Okay.
My second question concerns the bylaws concerning the notice of motion for bylaws concerning Sandy Beach closure and parking on Royal View. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Royal View remains, well, Beach Road and Royal View. No, Beach Road remains a private thoroughfare, correct? From the track.
Beach is public. Beach is public, Royal View is private.
Well, Royal View is the one at the end.
No, it is also called Royal View, but that last part for the 3 or 4 houses, 4 lots, indeed, that is public, but only that last portion.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let me rephrase that. The stretch between the EXO right-of-way, which includes the entrance, the current entrance to the Sandy Beach Nature Park, and the stub at the far end, the Royal View stub at the third traffic circle, that remains a private road, correct?
You're correct, yes.
Okay, so how will anybody be allowed to access from there onto the Sandy Beach Nature Park Trail Network?
Because the portion from beach, including the conservation area called Sandy Beach, so that portion along the Vivery, that portion belongs to the public.
But you can only get to it by crossing the part of
no.
road.
The road is public right up to the access of the lot. There may be a little strip off the side of the road, but it's more in the easement. But otherwise, yes, we do have access.
Okay, and the second part of that question is the development agreement. Chantal Perrault asked that question earlier, and she didn't really get an answer. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it anyway. That the development agreement of 2017 is still extant. There's been no attempt or request by Nicanco or the other agents of the developers to nullify that agreement. Am I correct in assuming that?
At this time, there has been no formal attempt to cancel that agreement.
And that leads to one last question. Is there any, or is the town concerned about any further attempts by Nicanco or its agents to roll back any other part of the 2017 development agreement, which would put in jeopardy any plan to build access to the beach, the servitude, since we would no longer own it, have access to it, to cancel the servitude? Is that a concern of the towns?
I think that's certainly in our peripheral vision, but at this time, I think before that is ever contested or proven, we're back to that. You remember when you're on council, the notion of an agreement takes both parties. You can't unilaterally cancel one side of the agreement. Before we come to that in restitution or anything else, it's sort of like the Legion file. There's a long road before it comes to that, and our goal at this time is to work with the developer in finding a mutual way forward. So I don't think that we'll have to ever, more than fingers crossed, I don't think we need to ever go to that extent. But yes, we have seen things surprise and escalate without notice. So I guess it is possible that we could be surprised by that as well, but it would have to be then proven in court and be determined by a judge. And before that happens, and the appeal processes and so on, we're talking several years down the road.
So this could be a long, long process.
Indeed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I see there's a hand online. If there's anyone in the room that would like to come to the microphone. Yeah, sure.
I would like to know if it's possible to have this 2017 agreement that we are talking about, an old document pertaining to the servitude to Sandy Beach. Can they be posted on the website of the town so we can all, you know, get knowledge of what's in it, you know, because...
I think the best would be to go through a request for access to information, just in case there's some provisions in there in terms of information that pertains to the owner that shouldn't be shared or needs to be redacted or whatever. I do recommend that it go through that. Once there is a version that has been passed through the fine-tooth comb of our town clerk, then I think once it's in public domain, it can stay in the public domain. But again, we're trying to be fair, square, and forthcoming, and it's important that we don't add more irritation to this situation. So I do ask that you go through an access to information.
Okay, but do we know why suddenly Ninenko decided to block the access? Is there something that we don't know?
I haven't had a conversation with them directly. I don't think Marie-Jacinthe has either. The sense that we get is they're just sending a strong signal. This is ours. We have been tolerant. We have been more than patient, and we've had enough, is the feeling that we get. You know, from now and moving forward, we'll have to see how we can continue. I mean, the relations in the last 3 weeks have been good. We've been able to install the new footbridge, which had to go across their property. They gave us access. We're asking them if we can put in place these bylaws that now have an impact on their private property. So, you know, they remain open and wanting to work with us, of course.
La démolition du 55 Beach aussi.
That's right. The demolition of that house that had been abandoned at 55 Beach, where a lot of youth were congregating and not necessarily in very safe conditions. This was demolished today, I believe, aujourd'hui.
Ça a commencé, en tout cas.
Ça a commencé.
Je ne sais pas si c'est complété.
So these are all elements that we had been, you know, looking to have in the past. We had sent notices in the past and without any response. So I think that the relationship at this point is much better than it has been, or at least it's existing where it might not have been existing before. And hopefully we can continue to build on this. This is why I'm asking the public to be cognizant and respectful of private property, and let's work from there.
I just want to understand, since we know that the 2017 was not nullified by a judge, obviously, but there's not even proceeding that have been done, do I understand that by blocking the access to the servitude, it's kind of doing something that was supposed to be allowed in the 2017 agreement?
The 2017 agreement actually proposes that the servitude would be made bigger and that it would include that access. In the original servitude of 2007, it just delineates a portion of the beach, not even all of it. There is no provision necessarily for the access at that point. I think we have to look at it more as them looking to keep their private property private and not seeing it as them looking to block access to the beach.
I think I could send you, if you allow me, some sections of the Civil Code that clearly state that the owner cannot change or make more difficult the access or use of the servitude. So I can, you know, I'm a lawyer, so but if I can, it can help you to think, maybe, okay, maybe they have reason to be pissed off, but it's not because you're pissed off at the town for some reason, and I don't judge that, but you cannot retaliate by not respecting yourself, your obligation in an agreement that I understand is still valid.
There obviously will be more on this, but thank you. We're aware, right, of the civil code. We have a lawyer on this file. This is actually, you know, what we also signaled in the case there would have been any block for us to install the footbridge, or if there was any effort to even block access along Royal View, considering that there are people living at the end of Royal View. So we're aware of what our rights are, but again, we're looking to work at this in a collaborative fashion rather than in a forceful fashion. There are 3 hands online. Jim, you need to bring yours down. So I will go June Penny online, and then there's a person in the room that had asked to come. So June Penny, go ahead.
Hi there.
Hi, June.
Hi there. I wanted to focus back to the community patrol issue. Have we defined to them the whole thing about the traffic on Main Road, especially in the Como area?
Are we talking about the ferry traffic?
Yeah. Mainly that intersection of Main Road and Bellevue, because with the bridge closures that have been happening already, we're experiencing an increased amount of traffic. And I'm not quite sure what the agreement is with the community, the new agreement with community patrol, if they're advised as to what they have to do. Because often what happens is that the traffic doesn't line up where they're meant to line up on the far side of the road, like, because everybody's more used to when you're turning left, you got to be in the left lane. So everybody tends to get into the left lane, but then the people that want to go straight through, like me coming home, I can't get through because everyone's in the wrong lane. So has that been addressed with the whole community patrol contract?
So considering that we've just adopted the resolution to give the contract, on a weekly basis, our urban planning department and supervised by Marie-Jacinthe, who is the Director General, there is sort of weekly hotspots or situations that are targeted and where we ask the community patrol to pay specific attention. What I didn't mention at the start of the meeting is that Marie-Jacinthe and I also met with the SQ on Friday morning. They have an interim lieutenant now that is replacing 2 people, well, 1 person that is left, but there's been quite a bit of movement in the SQ recently. And so I want to assure you that your councillor has certainly done his homework and sensitized us to that situation and to the frustration that this brings. And I know that other councillors who also live and circulate along Bellevue to their homes have lived the same situation. So we know, or we've been told by the Ministry of Transport that the repairs that they're doing to the existing bridge are actually taking longer than the rate of deterioration of the bridge. So we can expect that there will be continued and repeat closures and sudden closures. So we know that the ferry is going to be, an alternate route. So the SQ is aware and certainly will be there to work with us. And also, obviously, in the sort of weekly coordination of our community patrol, we will be giving them the hotspots to track and to follow. It's for certain that that little dog leg right between Bellevue and the ferry creates an issue. There would be options for better flow, obviously, that we could eventually look at, but we're also hearing through the grapevine that perhaps the ferry will be putting in place a 3rd boat. I'm still looking for confirmation on this, but that certainly would alleviate, because they also have a problem on the Aucun side. And also the suggestion of the SQ is that we work with Claude Desjardins, the owner of the ferry, to make sure that they add themselves more people to reroute or direct traffic and to make sure that there's no blockages with us, so that it's not just on the back of the community patrol that we already pay a lot of money for, but that he share that responsibility with us and also look to better manage the flow in those areas. So we do expect that May 20th, that weekend, will be certainly a busy weekend. We've also heard, but I'm waiting for confirmation on this, that the bridge will be closed on May 25th and May 26th, but I have not had formal confirmation on this. I've asked the MNA, so the provincial person at the National Assembly, to confirm this, and I haven't heard back. So again, I think there's going to be a lot of uncertainty and a lot of sort of last-minute changes, and I think we will have to all be quite patient with this situation.
But I would like to ask the town, though, to maybe address the issue, because it's the people that are not knowing where to place themselves once they're on Main Road. It's just that little short strip between Main Road and Sanderson, basically.
The waiting lane. Yeah. Yeah,
waiting lane. It's not clearly indicated where they should be if they're waiting for the boat, because it's contrary to our normal sense of where we should place ourselves if we're turning left. And that's what's creating the blockages a lot of the time, and the frustration of a lot of drivers. And if we could somehow, I don't know if you put up a big sign that if you're waiting for the boat, this is where you got to be, even though there is some signage already. But I think there needs to be additional signage, or if a person was there directing traffic, they could tell them, put yourself in this lane, and somebody, when the ferry boat traffic is leaving and they're like redirecting more people into the lanes of traffic, as the ferry boat is onboarding. I don't know, it's just becoming a major issue, and it's not a fault of the ferry, it's a fault of the Quebec transportation system that just isn't accommodating the flow of traffic that needs to get to where they want to go. And you know, it's like you don't see advertisements for the ferry promoting their business. You just see a lot of traffic coming here because that's where they're being directed to come.
Thank you. I think Reid wanted to add something.
Yeah, June, I just wanted to let you know that Bellevue is at the top of the list of the circulation committee for our next meeting. We have a few things that I think we're going to try this summer to see if it's going to help mitigate the situation. So there should be some more to come to that in the near future. I believe we should be meeting this month. And if we're not, I will push to have that meeting so that we can try some of these things out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I mean, the people living on Sanderson would not like me for saying this right now, but I think we're in a little bit of a crisis situation given the bridge situation, and to have that immediate access road to the ferry closed and only available for local residents, I'm not quite sure that that's the right scenario for the given the circumstances of our situation, because that road could accommodate quite a few cars coming down from Bellevue.
Yes, no, I'm aware. Thank you, June, for the reminder. If you don't mind, we'll pass to the next person. It is almost 10 p.m. So before you, there was someone behind you that had signaled. Yeah, sorry, Helen. Yeah, she was very discreet. Yes, hi.
My name's Caroline Herrera, and we just bought a property.
Your last name? Sorry.
Herrera.
Herrera. Yes, you wrote to us.
Yes, I did, and I'm asking the same question because I wanted it to be public, actually, because I don't think I'm the only homeowner that's having the same frustration. Our problem has been with the urban planning permit department. We felt like, as the first man had talked about when he was talking about the pools and so on, that when he asks a question, he has links to the ministerial sites just thrown at him. And my question was, when you're hiring your new urban planners, because I know you hired someone last year that's new full-time person. Well, we
have consultants that help us with the permits and the inspections.
What mandates do you give them? Do you tell them, please help our residents achieve their projects within the bylaws and the ministerial guidelines? Or do you just say, I don't know, just make sure there's the bylaws and ministerial guidelines? Because we felt like we've been roadblocked, stonewalled many, many times. And we know we're not the only residents who feel this way. This seems to be a town-wide disgruntlement with the way it operates. And the actual atmosphere of the interaction with the urban planners, where there isn't that sort of openness to help, to, you know, I think that most Hudsonites really respect nature and want to do projects that are like in keeping with Hudson, but it's not felt at all by the homeowners. And sometimes it takes actual, like, you know, if we're talking about 148 Main, it took him 7 years to get a permit to raise his house and garage. Finally, he had to go to the ministère and he got the permit. They made him raise it as a garage on account of he asked to raise his house. And there's other stories like that where it's just craziness, actually.
I have a question. Did you have a question?
My question is, what is their mandate? Is their mandate to help guide to achieve your my question is, when you're hiring someone, are you telling them, we want to help our homeowners achieve their projects within the bylaws and the ministerial guidelines?
So the town is here to provide services to its residents. So the answer is yes.
Okay, and so why does all this frustration exist?
I think you're frustrated because we are very short-staffed in that particular department. It's been going on for several years. It is frustrating for us as well, and we continue to work.
I actually don't think that's what it is. It's because there's so much stonewalling that we have to keep going back and back and back for the same things rather than to come to a resolution.
You asked me a question and I answered. I know this is, you know, it's unfortunate that you are or have experienced this situation. The Director General certainly has read your questions and is here and listening to you. She will certainly, I would think, do a follow-up internally, but also we have provided you with the answers. So I don't mind reading through the questions, but the answers were given to you, and I will not go through them in detail considering it is 10 p.m.
Thank you. Well, let's just hope there's a cooperation that exists. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. So the questions were, and I have them here in French. Oh no, they're in English too. So here, what is the role of Hudson planners with regards to property owners? Is the job description simply to ensure that ministerial regulations and municipal bylaws are complied with? Or is their mandate to help homeowners achieve the goals they have set for themselves in terms of renovating or improving their property while helping them identify and comply with ministerial guidelines and municipal bylaws? And how does the city ensure that planners apply the rules quickly and consistently? And it's not easy to deal with the planning department, which is a source of anxiety for many residents applying for permits. Is this the fault of the system in place or the description of the work of the town planners? So the answer was to that last one, it's neither. The complexity of the applicable regulations, so local, provincial, the obsolescence or imprecision of some of our regulations, the overload caused by the interim's control measures that we've just lifted this evening, and the lack of manpower explain a situation that is much more complex than simply defining roles or questioning the system. So we do look to improve our services. I understand that the Department of Urban Planning is a source of many people's frustrations, and I assure you that we are working at reinforcing that team and providing better delays and better response times. Are there any questions online? Ms. Ayers, you had your hand up. Yes, there it is. Sorry, there's a bit of an angle, and my eyes are not so great. Please prendre la parole or speak. Ask your question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So I'm a resident of Hazelwood. My question is really quite simple. Is the Lakeview redo project still on target for 2025?
Oh, well, we do have good news on this, where the subsidies were actually approved by both levels of government. So we can move ahead, yes. Now, the issue is because we had gone out to tender for at least the portion where we have the environmental approval. So the subsidies are approved, but now we have to make sure that we have the environmental ministry's approval, and I think we started this over a year ago. And we're still waiting on some for Lakeview, but we're coming to the end of that process. But we could start with a CLERK, which is part of that process. However, when we went to tender for CLERK last year and had to suspend that, we now have to validate whether we can use the same tender results or if we have to go back to public tender. Je ne sais pas si on avait eu une réponse à ça.
Une réponse formelle, je ne suis pas certaine, il faut voir que je revienne.
So, hopefully we can use the same people who had tendered last year, and if we go back out, well, we'll have to wait till the new tender results come out. But it'll probably start with the widening of Selkirk and then move to Lakeview as soon as we'll have the Environment Ministry's approval. And this is again for the ditching and those new requirements that come along with les cours d'eau dans les fossés. So it's the water courses that are in ditches. Thank you. I hope that gives you some relief or some hope.
It does. It does actually. I'll just, next town council meeting, I will ask the question again, because I really want to make sure this gets done for 2025. It's been a long time coming.
Absolutely. And next council meeting will also have the 2024 paving plan, where we're really in the final stretch, if we want, of selecting the streets that will be done. There's a certain number of streets that will be done for operational reasons, and then we sort of have an extra in there that we can start addressing other streets that need repair as well. In our 3-year plan and budget, we have set aside $1 million per year for the repair of roads, so that's not including Lakeview. Lakeview is a separate project, it's a special project, where 20% of that goes towards patching, road patching, to make sure that the degradation doesn't continue. So anyway, we're really in the final legs of that, so next month you'll hear more about roads, and we'll make sure to give you an update on Lakeview.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. Helen had a question in the room.
This time I'd like to talk about the problem about Bellevue and the embouteillage that we're experiencing, and it's getting worse with the bridge closures. I know that during my mandate, when the bridge was closed for quite a few weeks, there was at one point discussions with the Ministry of Transport to see about reopening Monte Manson as an alternative route to having a plan B when the chaos is everywhere as far as traffic and people are looking desperately to find a way to get across. Hudson and the ferry becomes a very, very favorable option for people when everything else breaks down. Right. No bridge, yellow torch. And today, for example, it took me 2 hours for a trip that normally takes me 25 minutes because there was a 6-car crash on the bridge in the Galipo Bridge, and so everybody went to yellow torch. So and that's going to be closing more and more. So has the town, or with the town, I know it was considered, and there was at one point, I know during my mandate, that the Ministry of Transport was open to helping the town open up a Plan B route, which could be Monte Manson, so that not everything has to go down Bellevue. I don't know if has the town discussed it, or would it be something that you can consider looking into as an option to alleviate a very difficult situation that will just get worse?
Yeah, no, all options are good. So certainly, I'm looking at Marie-Jacinthe. She can put that on her long list, but that's possibly a good option. And
with the help of the Ministry of Transport, and I know they were open to helping us when there was the other crisis a few years ago. I don't say the town does it all by themselves, but perhaps as
well, it's a dirt road, and we know that there is a culvert along Manson that needs to be changed according to the MRC that regulates, the flow of water courses. The cost of replacing that culvert is substantial, so at this time we had opted to not put any effort and essentially closing Manson. But as you said, maybe there's going to be will and incentive on the part of the ministry. But remember that it's an agricultural road and it is a dirt road. It is not intended, it doesn't necessarily have the width or everything else. It's a nice alternative, but we can certainly look into it, and I think that's a valid suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions online? June, if you don't mind, it's getting late. I would not take a second question if you don't mind. I see there's someone in the room that would like to ask a question who hasn't yet this evening. And if all right with you, I would then call it a closing since it is already 10:10. So I'm looking for your hand to come down if you don't mind, June. Please go ahead.
Hi, Matthew Heron. I live on Birch Hill. I was here yesterday with the lineup for the Taylor Swift concert, which I was actually signing up for the pool.
Right.
And
was she here?
She wasn't, but there was such a lineup outside, I wondered.
That's a good sign.
There's a lot of people that are really excited.
That's great. So,
but while we were standing in line, there was also some people that were a little anxious because last year there was some 39-year-old pool problems. And or 40-year or however.
Yeah, no, I want to make sure it was pool that I heard, and not like boy problem. That's what.
No, I wouldn't know about those.
Okay.
So my boys and the other people that were there were wondering what the plan is, because it is now a year older, and we have great faith that it's going to open when it's supposed to. And also, there's a baby pool that anyway, I think there's a whole story behind, but so there's just wondering what the plan is for this aging.
And thank you for bringing this up, because maybe you've heard other opening statements that go on and on and on, my statements, and I had chosen to really shrink it tonight. So yes, the pool, yeah, well, sometimes I am able to give updates on certain situations, so the questions help me give an update. The pool situation has been beautifully handled by the recreation director, but also Marie-Jacinthe. Last fall, we mandated an engineering firm to do a report on the state of the pool, its equipment, and what investments need to come into play in order to keep it up to regulations. I don't think that report is in yet because our engineers are overloaded everywhere. However, what we have done to date is purchase, and I believe we have it on site. We have an extra pump that is ready to go, so we're not having to wait to rebuild the pump, which is part of what happened last year. And we've also moved to hire those 20 people 1 week earlier so that they will do the maintenance of the pollen that had created that problem with the filters and the closure, or where we weren't able to open in time. So they will be there to make sure that the pool is ready and operational as the opening time. And also, you may be aware that we've put in place a working committee between the Recreation Department and parents of the pool. I'm looking to confirm, so that communications are more direct, don't have to go through Facebook or whatever happens, and we can stay, make sure that they stay informed and report back more rapidly. So I believe that there's been a lot of efforts. You also heard the responsibilization of the staff and making sure that they're accountable and they're trained for their positions. So there should be a lot less of those misses. But yes, as you said, it's an older pool. And vas-y.
Chloé, on a fait réparer aussi l'ordinateur. C'est l'ordinateur de bord qui
avait... control panel?
Oui, exactement. Une problématique de calibrage de chlore. En principe, si tout tient, la pataugeoire devrait fonctionner.
So this is the control panel that manages the quantity of chlorine in the kids section, has been repaired, and if all goes well, it should be operational this summer. They've been working very hard on this, and that's another sign of the benefits of having people in place. We didn't have we didn't have employees in position to manage the pool last year. One of them was very new and was overburdened as she was doing events and pool. So now that we have 2 people in place, they're able to do both, and I believe it will be a good season.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. So, June, I still see your hand up, but listen, you can call me on my phone tomorrow if you don't mind. It is 10:15. If there are no more questions, I will close. So, Section 12, adjournment of the meeting. I will need a mover. Peter Mate, seconded by Reed Thompson, that the meeting is adjourned at 10:14 p.m.